Chapter 25:18 Blood Flooding the World. The blood sky battle monarch let out a roar as several crimson rays shot out from his body. There was no end to the scarlet lights. Although each of the scarlet lights only had the strength of a rank 2 quasi-emperor, with so many of them, even a rank 3 quasi-emperor might not be able to block them. The blood sky battle monarch did not believe that an early first order quasi-emperor like Ning Yu could block so many scarlet lights. Chi. Ning Yu was unable to block the blood-red glow's attack, but Ao Xing was different. At this time, Ao Xing had completed 1/5 of the fusion with his body. The 1/5 of the fusion caused Ao Xing's strength to soar to the peak of rank 2 quasi-emperor. A peak rank 2 quasi-emperor naturally would not have much of a problem fighting against the bloodlight that was only at the level of an early rank 2 quasi-emperor. Furthermore, Ao Xing was a true dragon, and his physical body was extremely powerful. An ordinary rank 3 quasi-emperor would find it hard to resist so many scarlet lights because their physical bodies were far weaker than Ao Xing's. Damn it! Seeing how Ao Xing easily shattered the bloody light, Blood Sky Battle Monarch trembled in anger. Miscalculation. What a blunder! No matter how much he calculated, he didn't consider Ao Xing this variable. Retreat! Blood Sky Battle Emperor glared fiercely at Ning Yu and Ao Xing before leaping into the sky, tearing the void and fleeing into the distance. Swish, swish, swish! As soon as the Blood Sky Battle Emperor left, Mu Tuo, Mu Yin, and Mu Hai hurried over. The three of them had worked together to deal with a middle-aged man who was a rank 5 quasi-emperor, and they had spent a lot of time and effort to kill him. After killing the middle-aged man, Mu Hai and the others quickly gave chase. Chase! Mu Hai glanced at Ao Xing, then turned around and chased after Blood Sky Battle Emperor. Blood Sky Battle Emperor's doppelganger had to stay no matter what. They had guarded the quasi-emperor's secret realm for such a long time. They could not let Blood Sky Battle Monarch benefit so easily. As long as they could capture this avatar of the Blood Sky Battle Emperor, they would be able to use a secret technique to locate the Blood Sky Battle Emperor. The 100 Forest Weave had a great emperor like the Blood Sky Battle Monarch, who would always be a threat. Although it would be difficult to kill the Blood Sky Battle Emperor, it was still possible to capture him. Whoosh! After Mu Hai and the others left, Ao Xing immediately flew to Ning Yu's side. Taking a deep breath, he placed his right hand on Ning Yu's back. Not only Ao Xing, Ning Lu also jumped to Ning Yu's side and placed his right hand on Ning Yu's shoulder. Chi. Subsequently, endless energy was transferred from Ao Xing and Ning Lu's palms to Ning Yu's body. Ka. As the energy entered his body, Ning Yu's broken bones began to heal slowly. Not only were his bones healing, but Ning Yu also discovered that his divine war body was showing signs of a breakthrough. Isn't the god of war body only able to advance by devouring blood? Ning Yu was puzzled, but on second thought, Ning Yu felt relieved. Ning Lu was the world tree. Ao Xing was the true dragon. The energy they were transferring to him must be extremely precious. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. In this half an hour, Ning Yu's bones had completely healed, and his cultivation had advanced from early stage first-order quasi-emperor to mid-stage first-order quasi-emperor. Even his divine war body had advanced to the second transformation of the god of war. Furthermore, it was not the early stage second transformation of the god of war, but the peak second transformation of the god of war. My god of war! Ning Yu immediately cursed after he used his perception to check the condition of his body. He had initially thought that the second transformation of the god of war would only increase his strength slightly compared to the first transformation of the god of war. But now, Ning Yu knew that he was wrong, extremely wrong. The first transformation of the god of war was more like the initial stage of the divine war body. Previously, when he used the great Tao of devouring and the first transformation of the god of war, His strength could only slightly match a peak first-order quasi-emperor, but now he could fight against an early-stage first-order quasi-emperor with just the second transformation of the god of war. If he could restore the great Tao of devouring to its peak, he could even easily fight against a mid-stage first-order quasi-emperor, or even kill one. Phew! A few minutes after Ningyu had recovered, Ninglu and Ao Xing finally withdrew their palms and let out a long sigh. The trip to the quasi-emperor mystic realm. The relationship between Ao Xing and Ningyu became closer. At the beginning, Ao Xing might have used Ningyu as a springboard, hoping that Ningyu would help him leave. After experiencing so many things, Ao Xing's thoughts gradually changed. In the last 100,000 years, Ningyu might be his first friend. Ao Xing shook his head to get rid of these thoughts, then said to Ningyu, "Those mid-level quasi-emperors have already left. Why don't we go back and plunder all the emperor's spiritual liquid?" "Ha ha ha, that's exactly what I was thinking." Ningyu laughed loudly. Then his figure flickered and returned to the pond of emperor's spiritual liquid. When he returned to the pond, Ningyu was dumbfounded. At this time, there was no emperor's spiritual liquid in the pond. The pond was as empty as a field with nothing at all. No, it should be said that there was a small whirlpool at the bottom of the pond. The small whirlpool spun continuously, and every once in a while, a drop of emperor's spiritual liquid would appear. Below the small whirlpool, there was a small groove, and based on preliminary estimates, there were 100 drops of emperor's spiritual liquid in the groove. High-grade emperor's spiritual liquid. Ningyu's eyes lit up. The emperor's spiritual liquid in the pond was a low-grade emperor's spiritual liquid, and the emperor's spiritual liquid in the formation was a mid-grade emperor's spiritual liquid. The great emperor's spiritual liquid in front of him was a genuine high-grade great emperor's spiritual liquid. Although it took a few minutes to produce one drop, each drop of great emperor's spiritual liquid had endless effects. Whoosh! Ningyu opened the red demon sword and released Lin Lang. "What's the cultivation of your old ancestor at?" Ningyu asked. "How many drops of this emperor's spiritual liquid can help him recover to his peak state?" Until now, Ningyu did not know what rank the old ancestor of the Holy Ming Empire was at. The emperor's spiritual liquid was a good thing. Before giving Lin Lang the emperor's spiritual liquid, he needed to understand the situation. At his peak, the old ancestor was a rank 9 quasi-emperor. Lin Lang stared at the emperor's spiritual liquid in the groove below the whirlpool, swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and answered. Now that the old ancestor's cultivation has fallen to the rank 6 quasi-emperor realm, he urgently needs the emperor's spiritual liquid to recover. Rank 6 quasi-emperor. Ningyu frowned slightly. According to the classification, a rank 6 quasi-emperor was a mid-grade quasi-emperor. 100 drops of emperor's spiritual liquid could not help a mid-grade quasi-emperor recover to the rank 9 quasi-emperor realm. Lin Lang seemed to see through Ningyu's doubts, and he said again, "The old ancestor has prepared a lot of divine medicine. If there are 100 drops of emperor's spiritual liquid, coupled with those divine medicines, the old ancestor has an 80% chance of recovering to his peak state." Hearing this, Ningyu rolled his eyes. If he had 100 drops of emperor's spiritual liquid, he could at least advance to the rank 3 quasi-emperor, and even have a chance of breaking through to the rank 4 quasi-emperor realm. "I know this might put you in a difficult position, but I can guarantee that the old ancestor will not let you suffer any losses," Lin Lang said hurriedly, afraid that Ningyu would not give him the emperor's spiritual liquid. Chapter 2519. Blood Flood the World. Blood Sky Battle Monarch bellowed as several crimson rays shot out from his body. These crimson rays were endless, although each of them had the strength of a rank 2 quasi-emperor. Even a rank 3 quasi-emperor might not be able to withstand so many of them. Blood Sky Battle Monarch did not believe that an early rank 1 quasi-emperor like Ning Yu could withstand so many crimson rays. Chi, chi, chi. Ning Yu could not withstand the attacks of the crimson rays, but Ao Xing was different. At this time, Ao Xing had completed 1/5 of the fusion with his body. 1/5 of the fusion allowed Ao Xing's strength to soar to peak rank 2 quasi-emperor. A peak rank 2 quasi-emperor naturally had no problem against the crimson rays that were only at the level of an early rank 2 quasi-emperor. Furthermore, Ao Xing was a true dragon, so his body was extremely powerful. An ordinary rank 3 quasi-emperor would find it hard to withstand so many crimson rays due to their bodies being far weaker than Ao Xing's. Damn it! Blood Sky Battle Monarch trembled with anger when he saw Ao Xing easily scatter the crimson rays. Miscalculation. What a miscalculation! No matter how much he calculated, he didn't consider the variable Ao Xing retreat. Blood Sky Battle Monarch glared at Ningyu and Ao Xing, then leaped into the air and fled into the distance. Swish, swish, swish. As soon as Blood Sky Battle Monarch left, Mu Tuo, Mu Yin, and Mu Hai hurried over. The three of them had spent a lot of time and energy to deal with the middle-aged man who was a rank 5 quasi-emperor. After killing the middle-aged man, Mu Hai and the rest quickly caught up. After him, Mu Hai glanced at Ao Xing, then turned around and chased after Blood Sky Battle Monarch. Blood Sky Battle Monarch's clone had to be left behind no matter what. They had guarded the quasi-emperor's secret realm for so long, so they could not let Blood Sky Battle Monarch take advantage of this. As long as they could capture Blood Sky Battle Monarch's clone, they could use a secret technique to locate Blood Sky Battle Monarch. Blood Sky Battle Monarch was always a threat in the 100 Forest domain. If they found Blood Sky Battle Monarch, they might not be able to kill him, but they could still chase him away. Whoosh! After Mu Hai and the others left, Ao Xing immediately flew to Ningyu's side. Taking a deep breath, he placed his right hand on Ningyu's back. Not only Ao Xing Ning Lu also jumped to Ningyu's side and placed his right hand on Ningyu's shoulder. Chi. Subsequently, endless energy was transferred from Ao Xing and Ning Lu's palms to Ningyu's body. Ka. As the energy entered his body, Ningyu's broken bones began to heal slowly. Not only were his bones healed, but Ningyu also discovered that his divine war body was showing signs of a breakthrough. Isn't the god of war body only able to advance by devouring blood? Ningyu was puzzled, but on second thought, Ningyu felt relieved. Ning Lu was the world tree. Ao Xing was the true dragon. The energy they were transferring to him must be extremely precious. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. In this half an hour, Ningyu's bones had completely healed, and his cultivation had advanced from early stage First Order Quasi-Emperor to mid-stage First Order Quasi-Emperor. Even his divine war body had advanced to the second transformation of the god of war. Furthermore, it was not the early stage second transformation of the god of war, but the peak second transformation of the god of war. My god of war. Ning Yu immediately cursed after he used his perception to check the condition of his body. He had initially thought that the second transformation of the god of war would only increase his strength slightly compared to the first transformation of the god of war. But now, Ningyu knew that he was wrong, extremely wrong. The first transformation of the god of war was more like the initial stage of the divine war body. Previously, when he used the great Tao of devouring and the first transformation of the god of war, his strength could only slightly match a peak First Order Quasi-Emperor. But now he could fight against an early stage First Order Quasi-Emperor with just the second transformation of the god of war. If he could restore the great Tao of devouring to its peak, he could even easily fight against a mid-stage First Order Quasi-Emperor, or even kill one. A few minutes after Ningyu had recovered, Ning Lu and Ao Xing retracted their palms and let out a long sigh. The trip to the quasi-emperor mystic realm. Ao Xing and Ning Yu's relationship became closer. At the beginning, Ao Xing might have used Ning Yu as a springboard, hoping that Ning Yu would help him leave. After experiencing so many things, Ao Xing's thoughts gradually changed. In 100,000 years, Ning Yu might be his first friend. Ao Xing shook his head to get rid of these thoughts, then said to Ning Yu, "Those mid-stage quasi-emperors have already left. Why don't we return and plunder all the emperor's spiritual liquid?" "Ha ha ha, that's what I was thinking." Ning Yu laughed loudly. Then his figure flickered and returned to the pond. When he returned to the pond, Ning Yu was completely dumbfounded. At this time, there was no emperor's spiritual liquid in the pond. The pond was as empty as a field with nothing at all. No, it should be said that at the bottom of the pond there was a small whirlpool. The small whirlpool spun continuously, and every once in a while, a drop of emperor's spiritual liquid would appear. Below the small whirlpool, there was a small groove, and based on preliminary estimates, there were 100 drops of emperor's spiritual liquid in the groove. High-grade emperor's spiritual liquid. Ning Yu's eyes lit up. The emperor's spiritual liquid in the pond was low-grade emperor's spiritual liquid, and the emperor's spiritual liquid in the formation was mid-grade emperor's spiritual liquid. Now, the emperor's spiritual liquid in front of him was a genuine high-grade emperor's spiritual liquid. Although it took a few minutes to produce one drop, each drop of great emperor's spiritual liquid had endless effects. Whoosh! Ning Yu opened the red demon sword, and Lin Lang was released. "What's the cultivation of your old ancestor?" Ning Yu asked. "How many drops of this emperor's spiritual liquid can help him recover to his peak state?" Until now, Ning Yu did not know what rank the old ancestor of the Holy Ming Empire was. The emperor's spiritual liquid was good stuff. Before giving Lin Lang the emperor's spiritual liquid, he needed to understand the situation. At his peak, the old ancestor was a rank 9 quasi-emperor. Lin Lang's eyes stared at the emperor's spiritual liquid in the groove below the whirlpool, and he swallowed a mouthful of saliva before answering. Now that the old ancestor's cultivation has fallen to the rank 6 quasi-emperor realm, he urgently needs the emperor's spiritual liquid to recover. Rank 6 quasi-emperor. Ning Yu frowned slightly. According to the classification, a rank 6 quasi-emperor was a mid-level quasi-emperor. 100 drops of emperor's spiritual liquid could not help a mid-level quasi-emperor recover to the rank 9 quasi-emperor realm. Lin Lang seemed to see through Ning Yu's doubts, and he said again, "The old ancestor has prepared a lot of divine herbs. If there are 100 drops of emperor's spiritual liquid, and with those divine herbs, the old ancestor has an 80% chance of recovering to his peak state." Hearing this, Ning Yu rolled his eyes. If he had 100 drops of emperor's spiritual liquid, he could at least advance to the rank 3 quasi-emperor realm, and even have a chance of breaking through to the rank 4 quasi-emperor realm. "I know this might put you in a difficult position, but I can guarantee that the old ancestor will not let you suffer any losses." Chapter 25-20. Ning Yu pondered for a moment, then said, "How about this? I'll go with you to the Shunming Empire after we leave the quasi-emperor mysterious realm. I'll consider giving the great emperor's spiritual liquid to your ancestor after we meet." To be honest, Ning Yu trusted Lin Lang very much. After all, from Broken Cliff City to the Immortal Court, then to the quasi-emperor's secret realm, Lin Lang hadn't done anything to harm him. Moreover, Lin Lang had helped him quite a bit. Under such circumstances, Ning Yu would not be stingy with his great emperor's spiritual liquid. However, although Ning Yu believed in Lin Lang, he did not believe in the Holy Ming Empire's old ancestor. What if the ancestor of the Holy Ming Empire was not a good person? After pondering for a moment, Ningyu made a rough judgment in his heart. The great emperor's spiritual liquid had to be handed to the great ancestor of the Holy Ming Empire by him, and not through Lin Lang's hands. As for how he would negotiate with the old ancestor of the Holy Ming Empire, that was his business. He could not make things difficult for Lin Lang. Thank you. Lin Lang cupped his fists at Ningyu and said, I thank you on behalf of the ancestor. Whoosh! With a flick of his wrist, Ningyu took out a drop of high-grade Emperor spiritual liquid. I'll let you consume this drop of great Emperor spiritual liquid. Strive to raise your cultivation to the peak Immortal King realm and try to break through to the Tao domain realm. Lin Lang's current cultivation had not even reached the peak of the Immortal King realm. With his strength, even if he returned to the Holy Ming Empire, he would not attract the attention of the old ancestor. Ningyu did not believe that an old ancestor who was a rank 9 quasi-emperor at his peak would have a whole new level of respect for Lin Lang. After all, Lin Lang's talent was not considered too strong. The other geniuses of the Holy Ming Empire, like Lin Tai and Lin Xian, were all stronger than Lin Lang. If a drop of high-grade, great monarch spiritual liquid could help Lin Lang reach the peak Immortal King realm or the Tao domain realm, it would be worth it. All right. Lin Lang knew that Ningyu meant well. Moreover, among the many princes of the Holy Ming Empire, his talent was indeed not very good. Although he was the crown prince, his position as the crown prince was not stable. Chi. Lin Lang opened his mouth and directly swallowed the great monarch's spiritual liquid. The great emperor's spiritual liquid entered his stomach. Lin Lang hurriedly activated his spell and began to devour. Drip, drip. As time passed, Lin Lang's aura began to rapidly increase. The high-grade, great monarch spiritual liquid was indeed extraordinary. Half an hour later, boom! When a terrifying aura arose from Lin Lang, it meant that Lin Lang's cultivation had already attained the peak of the Immortal King realm, and he was only a step away from the Tao domain realm. Keep it up. Ningyu threw another drop of great monarch spiritual liquid to Lin Lang. Lin Lang didn't say anything more. He swallowed the monarch's spiritual liquid and began to refine it. While Lin Lang was refining the emperor's spiritual liquid, Ningyu thought for a moment and took out a few more drops of emperor's spiritual liquid for the people inside the red demon sword. Water Moon Fairy, his parents, the Dark Emperor. These people had not even reached the Immortal King realm. The heavenly demons were attacking the Immortal Court. If they had not reached the Immortal King realm, they might not even have the ability to protect themselves in the future. 10 drops. Ningyu took out 10 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid for the Water Moon Fairy and the Dark Emperor to use. Good stuff. Ningyu had just thrown the Emperor's spiritual liquid into the red demon sword when the Dark Emperor leaped out of the red demon sword. Apart from the Dark Emperor, even the red demon transformed into his human form. Great monarch spiritual liquid, especially the high-grade great monarch spiritual liquid. It was very attractive to the Dark Emperor and the red demon. Ningyu, give me a few dozen drops. The Dark Emperor shouted as soon as he came out. A few dozen drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid can reconstruct my body and complete my transformation. I only need 10 drops. The red demon didn't demand as much as the Dark Emperor. He said, 10 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid can upgrade the red demon's sword to the Emperor rank. Ningyu rolled his eyes. Do you think Emperor's spiritual liquid is cabbage? You want 10 drops. He wants dozens of drops. After all, he had promised Lin Lang that he would keep 100 drops of great monarch's spiritual liquid. Wouldn't it be awkward if he couldn't take it out when the time came? Boom! Just when Ningyu was having a headache, a terrifying aura emanated from Lin Lang's body. Tao Domain Realm. After refining 2 drops of Emperor Spirit liquid in succession, Lin Lang's cultivation broke through to the Tao Domain Realm. Moreover, there was still a lot of Great Emperor's spiritual liquid left in Lin Lang's body. if he could completely refine the great emperor's spiritual liquid in his body, he might be able to break through to the Tao Advent realm or even the Heaven receiving realm. After advancing to the Tao domain realm, Lin Lang looked at the expectant Dark Emperor and Red Fiend. He gritted his teeth and said, "The Quasi-Emperor mystic realm is extremely dangerous. Consume the Great Emperor spirit liquid first, and try your best to raise your strength. Otherwise, it will be a problem if you can't leave with just the Great Emperor spirit liquid." How about this? Although Ningyu wanted to keep the Great Monarch's spiritual liquid, it didn't belong to him. Ao Xing and Ning Lu had put in a lot of effort. Not giving them the Great Emperor's spiritual liquid was unacceptable, at the very most. Ningyu wanted to keep his share. After leaving the Quasi-Emperor mystic realm, he would find a way to go to the Shengming Empire and give the Great Emperor's spiritual liquid to the old ancestor of the Shengming Empire. However, Ningyu was just about to speak when he was surprised to find that the small whirlpool suddenly became bigger. Then, a large amount of Great Emperor's spiritual liquid surged out of the whirlpool. Gulp! Seeing so much Great Emperor's spiritual liquid, Ningyu couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. How much was there? Preliminary estimation. There were at least 1,000 drops of Great Emperor's spiritual liquid surging out. Rumble. However, just as Ningyu was about to collect the Great Emperor's spiritual liquid, the ground began to shake violently. This is bad. The Quasi-Emperor mystic realm is going to be closed. Ao Xing's expression changed, and he said hurriedly, "Everyone leave quickly. If you're late, you might be trapped in the Quasi-Emperor mystic realm forever." "I'm leaving." Hearing that, Ningyu's expression also changed drastically. Trapped in the Quasi-Emperor mystic realm forever. He didn't want to be trapped here either. Therefore, Ningyu directly stored the Great Emperor's spiritual liquid in the groove into the Red Devil sword, then grabbed Lin Lang and fled into the distance. "Come with me." Ao Xing's performance was still considered calm. After all, he had been trapped in the Quasi-Emperor mystic realm for 100,000 years and was more familiar with the situation inside. Whoosh! 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 The next moment, Ao Xing led the way, while Ningyu and Ning Lu followed behind. As for the Dark Emperor and Lin Lang, they entered the Red Devil sword. They were very weak and would most likely be a burden if they stayed behind. Placing them in the Red Devil sword could not only increase Ningyu's speed, but it could also protect them. Roar! Ningyu and Ao Xing traveled at full speed for about half an hour before they were forced to stop. There was no other reason. In front of them, a giant demonic beast blocked their way. The demonic beast was huge, with a giant golden horn on its head and a very short tail. Short-tailed giant horned beast. Chapter 25-21. What the F***CK? Seeing so many cold lights, Ningyu couldn't help but curse. He did not expect that the short-tailed giant horned beast could still erupt with such terrifying combat power at this level. Even if he advanced to peak rank 1 Quasi-Emperor, he would definitely not be able to withstand so many cold lights. Could it be that the short-tailed giant horned beast's cultivation was higher than early rank 3 Quasi-Emperor? Thinking of this, Ningyu hurriedly deployed his perception to detect the short-tailed giant horned beast. Run! Ningyu's mind was in a mess when he saw it. When he first saw the short-tailed giant horned beast, Ningyu was almost certain that the short-tailed giant horned beast was early rank 3 Quasi-Emperor. But now the short-tailed giant horned beast's cultivation had soared to peak rank 3 Quasi-Emperor. How could they fight? Putting aside the question of whether or not he could win, the question he had to consider now was whether or not he could escape. Enter the Red Fiend's sword. Ningyu grabbed Ning Lu and Ao Xing and threw them into the Red Fiend's sword. Then he increased his speed to the limit and sped toward the exit of the Quasi-Emperor's secret realm according to Ao Xing's instructions. As they ran, Ningyu asked, Ao Xing, do you know what's going on? Why is the short-tailed giant horned beast a peak rank 3 quasi-emperor now, from early rank 3 quasi-emperor? The boundary we are in is an extremely special boundary of the quasi-emperor's secret realm, called the Disordered Zone. Ao Xing explained, I don't know much about the Disordered Zone. I only know that the demonic beasts in the Disordered Zone have 2 states. 2 states? Ningyu asked. That's right. One is the weakened state, and the other is the peak state. The short-tailed giant horned beast we encountered might have been in the weakened state at the beginning, which was early rank 3 quasi-emperor. But later it directly became the peak state. Ao Xing nodded and said in a low voice, How much longer until we reach the exit? Ningyu did not dwell on this and asked directly. The most important thing now was not how the short-tailed giant horned beast became the peak state, but when they could reach the exit and leave the quasi-emperor secret realm. 3 hours, Ao Xing said. Holy SH *T. Ningyu almost cursed. 3 hours? The short-tailed giant horned beast behind him was getting closer and closer. How could he delay it for 3 hours? There's another way. Ao Xing pondered deeply for a moment, and then he said, Ning Lu and I will lend you our energy, and you'll kill the short-tailed giant horned beast. I'm afraid this method won't work. Ningyu looked back at the short-tailed giant horned beast and said, Even if my body can withstand that much energy, the short-tailed giant horned beast behind us is getting closer and closer. It won't give me the chance. How would we know if we don't try? His voice fell. The energy in Ao Xing's body surged out and was transferred from the red devil's sword to Ning Yu's body. Chi. Ning Lu also transferred his energy into Ning Yu's body. Bang! Almost in an instant, the energy in Ning Yu's body had reached a critical point. His cultivation had advanced from late-stage first-level quasi-emperor to peak first-level quasi-emperor. Ning Yu was a little dumbfounded. He originally thought that Ning Lu and Ao Xing were only giving him energy, but he did not expect that Ning Lu and Ao Xing were giving him origin energy. Once origin energy was depleted too much, it would be very damaging to one's body. To put it simply, if Ning Yu's body was filled with ordinary energy, then his aura would soar, but it would fall back later. Origin energy was different. Origin energy could make his cultivation soar, and it would not fall back later. In other words, Ning Yu's current cultivation had already reached the peak of rank 1 quasi-emperor. Furthermore, it was still growing stronger. Stop! Ning Yu knew that if he did this, Ao Xing and Ning Lu would very likely suffer serious injuries. So he immediately shouted, Bang! Just as Ning Yu shouted, a muffled sound suddenly came from his body. This dull sound signified that his cultivation had advanced to the early second rank quasi-emperor realm. Kill. After advancing to second stage quasi-emperor, Ningyu already had the ability to seal his body. He immediately sealed his body, cut off the connection between him and the red fiend sword, and turned to fight with the short-tailed giant horned beast. At this time, Ningyu already had enough confidence to fight with the short-tailed giant horned beast. Although the short-tailed giant horned beast was a peak third-level quasi-emperor, he had advanced to early stage second-level quasi-emperor, and the great Tao of devouring had also devoured the last 30 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid. His ranking soared to 270. This ranking of the great Tao of devouring already had enough terrifying power. It attacked the short-tailed giant horned beast from the side, restraining it for Ningyu and buying some time for Ningyu. While the short-tailed giant horned beast was restrained, Ningyu immediately injected energy into the red fiend sword without any hesitation and slashed out with a backhand. Whoosh! In a split second, a waist-thick sword light separated from the red fiend sword. This sword light blasted straight at the short-tailed giant horned beast. Roar! The short-tailed giant horned beast seemed to sense danger. It raised its head and roared angrily, then turned around and fled. It fled? Ning Yu was slightly taken aback. No matter how powerful his sword light was, it could not possibly kill the short-tailed, giant, horned beast. At most, it could severely injure it. The short-tailed, giant, horned beast was a peak third-level quasi-emperor. How could it be so timid? But very soon, Ning Yu knew what had happened. The short-tailed, giant, horned beast was not afraid of him, nor was it afraid of the great Tao of devouring, but the three figures that suddenly appeared in the void: Mu Tua, Mu Yin, and Mu Hai. Among them, Mu Tua and Mu Yin were peak fourth-level quasi-emperors, while Mu Hai was a fifth-level quasi-emperor. Their sudden appearance scared the short-tailed, giant, horned beast out of its wits, and it hurriedly fled into the distance. However, it was as difficult as ascending to heaven for the short-tailed, giant, horned beast to escape from the three of them. Mu Hai flicked his finger, and in a split second, a cold light shot out and struck the short-tailed, giant, horned beast's head. In an instant, the short-tailed, giant, horned beast was killed, and it fell straight to the ground. Swish! Mu Hai's right hand grabbed at the void, and a force pulled the short-tailed, giant, horned beast back. Mu Hai threw the short-tailed, giant, horned beast to Ning Yu and said, "Give it to Ao Xing and let him recover as soon as possible. There's one more thing for him to do." "Let him do it?" Ning Yu was slightly stunned. From the sound of it, it seemed that Mu Hai knew Ao Xing. Although he was puzzled, Ning Yu did not dare to quarrel with Mu Hai. He opened the red fiend's sword, and Ao Xing scurried out from within. As for Ning Lu, Ning Yu did not let him out. Who knew if Mu Hai and the others could see Ning Lu's true form? Ning Lu staying within the red fiend's sword was a more reliable method. However, Mu Hai seemed to know Ning Lu. He waved his hand and said to Ning Yu, "Let him come out with that world tree. We have nothing against him. On the contrary, there's a good thing waiting for him. In addition, I will help him refine the world tree in his body and strive to break through to the third-level quasi-emperor realm as soon as possible." Chapter 25-22. Something good. Ning Yu frowned slightly. He had not expected that Mu Hai already knew Ning Lu's true identity. If it was a blessing, it wasn't a curse. If it was a curse, it couldn't be avoided. After all, given Mu Hai's abilities, if he really wanted to harm them, he could easily snatch away the red demon's sword and force Ning Lu out. Since he didn't do that, it meant that he didn't have any ill intentions towards them. Furthermore, Mu Hai was a rank 5 quasi-emperor. No one could stop him if he wanted to do something. Come out. Ning Yu took a deep breath and unsheathed the red demon's sword. Whoosh! Ning Lu's figure flickered, and he scuttled out of the red devil sword. Good, very good, very good. The moment he saw Ning Lu, Mu Hai revealed a look of wild joy. On the other side, Mu Tua and Mu Yin were also very happy. Blood Sky Battle Emperor's doppelganger, take it and refine it. Mu Hai flipped his wrist and threw Blood Sky Battle Emperor to Ning Lu. Looking at the Blood Sky Battle Emperor clone in front of him, Ning Lu was a little confused. What the hell was Mu Hai doing? If others knew that he was the World Tree, they would definitely try their best to refine him. Mu Hai, on the other hand, not only did they not refine him, but they even gave him a clone of the Sky Blood Battle Monarch for him to refine. How strange! No. Suddenly, Ning Lu seemed to think of something, and his expression changed slightly. Could it be that Mu Hai thought he was too weak and wanted to devour him after he became a little stronger? The more he thought about it, the more Ning Lu felt that it was possible. After all, he had given his origin energy to Ning Yu, so his cultivation had dropped to a freezing point. Mu Hai was a rank 5 quasi-emperor. Swallowing him should not have much effect. Don't think too much. Mu Hai seemed to have guessed what Ning Lu was thinking. he said with a dark expression. "When you leave the quasi-emperor mystic realm, there will naturally be someone to receive you and tell you some secrets." "All right." Ning Lu nodded and squatted down. He placed his palm on the Blood Sky Battle Emperor's clone and began to devour it. Chi. While Ning Lu was devouring Blood Sky Battle Emperor's clone, Ao Xing was devouring the short-tailed giant horned beast's corpse. Time passed by quickly. Boom! Half an hour later, a terrifying aura burst out from Ao Xing's body and soared into the sky. Peak second rank Quasi-Emperor. After swallowing the short-tailed giant horned beast, Ao Xing's cultivation broke through to the peak of the second rank Quasi-Emperor realm. Boom! Another half an hour passed. The same aura soared into the sky. Ning Lu's cultivation was the same as Ao Xing's, reaching peak rank 2 Quasi-Emperor realm. Ning Yu was slightly embarrassed. Whether it was Ao Xing or Ning Lu, their cultivations were always slightly higher than his. He was an early rank 2 Quasi-Emperor, while Ning Lu and Ao Xing were peak rank 2 Quasi-Emperors. Shaking his head, Ning Yu temporarily threw these things to the back of his mind. On the other hand, Ning Lu and Ao Xingqiang were also beneficial to him. Let's go. Let's leave the Quasi-Emperor's secret realm. It was only after Ning Lu and Ao Xing had finished devouring that Mu Hai said, "I will escort you to the exit of the Quasi-Emperor mystic realm." As he spoke, Mu Hai's hands tore open the void and tunneled in. Swoosh! Mu Hai tore through the void while Mu Tuo and Mu Yun darted into the distance. Ning Yu and Ao Xing exchanged a glance, then tunneled into the void, following closely behind Mu Hai. Mu Hai was a rank 5 Quasi-Emperor. In other words, it should be Mu Hai's clone that was a rank 5 Quasi-Emperor. On the surface, the 100 Forest domain had a total of 4 great emperors: Mu Tuo, Mu Yin, Mu Hai, and Mu Shan. Among them, Mu Shan guarded the core of the 100 Forest domain, while Mu Hai and the rest remained in the Quasi-Emperor mystic realm, as if they had something to do. Of course, Ning Yu was well aware that he had no way of knowing these things for the time being. If he couldn't reach that level, there was no point in knowing. Crack! After advancing at full speed for roughly half an hour, Ning Yu and the rest stopped in front of an enchantment. Mu Hai's hands lengthened, directly tearing a gap in the enchantment, saying, "You guys go out first. In about 3 days' time, there will naturally be people from the Holy Mountain coming to find you. At that time, the people from the Holy Mountain will tell you everything. Go." Ning Yu did not have any hesitation. He, Ao Xing, and Ning Lu directly tunneled into the gap, disappearing from Mu Hai's vision. Sigh, I hope I can help the 100 Forest domain. Mu Hai sighed softly. Then he turned his head and disappeared as well. Whoosh! After leaving the Quasi-Emperor mystic realm, Ning Yu let out a long sigh. During this trip to the Quasi-Emperor mystic realm, their gains could be said to be extremely great. He directly advanced from the Immortal King realm to the early rank 2 Quasi-Emperor. Ning Lu also became a peak rank 2 Quasi-Emperor. Even Lin Lang and the Dark Emperor's strength had a qualitative leap. Moreover, they also obtained a large amount of Emperor's spiritual liquid. Ning Yu took a preliminary look and discovered that there should currently be about 1,100 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid left in the Red Demon Sword. This amount of Emperor's spiritual liquid was completely enough for him to cultivate to the middle rank Quasi-Emperor realm. Where to now? Ning Lu looked around and discovered that they were in a forest, so he asked, "Do we go to the Sage Ming Empire or find a place to rest and recuperate?" First, find a place. Ning Yu thought for a while and felt that it was not too appropriate to go to the Sage Ming Empire now. Recuperating first was the right choice. Rustle, rustle, rustle. However, before Ning Yu's voice faded, his expression changed, and then he revealed a look of joy. There was no other reason. In the distance, a few figures appeared in their vision. Yang Yaming, Emo Xiao, Xiao Duanya. These people were Yang Yeming and the others who had separated from Ning Yu at the cloud-soaring mountain range. Ning Yu did not expect that they would still be able to come out alive. Moreover, from the looks of it, their cultivation had all made a huge breakthrough. Yang Yeming and Emo Xiao had reached the late Immortal King realm, while Xiao Duanya had advanced to the peak Immortal King realm. My God, my God! When Emo Xiao saw Ning Yu, he was completely dumbfounded. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and almost cursed. In the quasi-emperor mystic realm, he had obtained a great opportunity and advanced to the late Immortal King realm. He had originally thought that after leaving the quasi-emperor mystic realm, he would be able to contend with Ning Yu and escape from Ning Yu's control. However, from the looks of it now, he realized that he had thought too much. Ning Yu's cultivation was at least a first-tier quasi-emperor. This was because the aura that Ning Yu gave off was even stronger than those old ancestors he had seen in the Dragon War Empire. The Dragon War Empire also had quasi-emperors. Moreover, there were middle-tier quasi-emperors and a few high-level quasi-emperors. The pressure that Ning Yu gave him had already exceeded the scope of a first-tier quasi-emperor. It's good that you're back. Ning Yu patted Yang Yeming's shoulder heavily, then gave Yang Yeming a drop of Great Emperor's spiritual liquid. As for Xiao Duanya, he also received a drop. Great Emperor's spiritual liquid? Emo Xiao's eyes widened, and he looked at Ning Yu with anticipation. He also wanted the Great Emperor's spiritual liquid. This was because a drop of Great Emperor's spiritual liquid was completely enough for him to advance to the peak Immortal King realm. At this time, Emo Xiao already had a faint idea in his mind. Perhaps following Ning Yu and submitting to Ning Yu was a good choice. One had to know that even in the Dragon War Empire, Great Emperor's spiritual liquid was also a good thing. At the very least, as a prince, he temporarily did not have the right to receive Great Emperor's spiritual liquid. Ning Yu directly took out 2 drops and gave it to Yang Yeming and Xiao Duanya. Didn't this mean that Ning Yu had many drops of Great Emperor's spiritual liquid? This book came from Chapter 25-23. Ning Yu glanced at Emo Xiao, not intending to give him the Great Emperor's spiritual liquid. Cell phone terminum. His relationship with Emo Xiao wasn't that good. Furthermore, Emo Xiao was a scheming person who always wanted to escape from his control. Even if Ning Yu were to throw away the great monarch's spiritual liquid, he would not give it to him. Seeing that Ning Yu ignored him, Emo Xiao became very disappointed. He had no choice but to watch as Yang Yeming and Xiao Duanya devoured the Emperor's spiritual liquid. Boom! Boom! As Yang Yeming was at the peak of the late-stage Immortal King realm, and Xiao Duanya was at the peak of the late-stage Immortal King realm. The two of them only used 10 minutes to raise their cultivation by 1 level. Yang Yeming rose to peak Immortal King, while Xiao Duanya advanced to the Dao Domain realm, equal to Linlang. Thank you. After their cultivation had increased, Yang Yeming and Xiao Duanya cupped their fists at Ning Yu at the same time. Now, both of them were very grateful to Ning Yu. If it weren't for Ning Yu, it would have been more difficult for them to improve their cultivation in a short period of time. After all, they didn't have any Great Emperor's spiritual liquid. There's no need to thank me. Ning Yu waved his hand and said, "Let's go to the Divine Wind Empire first and help you fight for the position of Crown Prince." Originally, Ning Yu wanted to find a place to recuperate for a while. After he had recovered to his peak state in all aspects, he would think about going to the Sage Ming Empire or somewhere else. But now that he had met Yang Yeming, he naturally had to go to the Divine Wind Empire first. All right. Words cannot express my gratitude for such a great favor. Yang Yeming understood this logic. He nodded his head as he spoke. We can take a spatial teleportation array from the soaring sky Immortal Empire. This way we can reach the capital city of the Divine Wind Empire, the Divine Wind City earlier. Although Ningyu and the others had advanced to the quasi-emperor realm, they were not weak at all. However, if he wanted to fly to the Divine Wind Empire, he would need to fly for at least 10 days. Teleportation arrays were different. Using the teleportation array, it would take at most 1 or 2 days to reach the Divine Wind City. Ningyu and the others were not indecisive people. They left without hesitation. They first went to the teleportation pavilion of the Endless Sky Immortal Empire and used a special teleportation array. After spending a day and a half, they finally arrived at the teleportation pavilion of the Divine Wind City. The Divine Wind City's teleportation pavilion was extremely large, so large that it was terrifying. Fifth Prince. Ningyu and the others had just arrived at the Divine Wind City when there were 3 or 4 black-robed martial artists waiting outside the transmission pavilion. Obviously, these black-clothed martial artists were obviously waiting for Yang Yaming. Ningyu skimmed through it. He discovered that the cultivation of these martial artists in black were all at the late stage of Immortal King realm. The sudden appearance of 3 to 4 late-stage Immortal King powerhouses really surprised Ningyu. After all, he was very clearly aware that every single advanced stage Immortal King was the backbone of the competition for the position of Crown Prince. Back then in the teleportation pavilion of the Endless Sky Immortal Empire, Ningyu domineeringly killed several late-stage Immortal Kings from the Dragon War Empire and Divine Wind Empire, causing Emo Chang and Yang Xiaoxiu to turn pale. This is not the place to talk. Yang Yaming's face turned cold as he said in a deep voice, "Let's return to the 9th Prince's palace first." As the 5th Prince of the Divine Wind Empire, Yang Yaming had his own businesses and forces in the Divine Wind City. The Emperor of the Divine Wind Empire had said that peak-stage Immortal King powerhouses wouldn't participate in the competition for the Crown Prince position and could only let the princes find their own way. Now, his strongest helpers in the Divine Wind City, advanced stage Immortal King powerhouses, had all appeared to welcome him. There must be a reason for this abnormality. Yang Yaming knew this. So his first thought was to return to the 9th Prince's palace to see what was going on. Sha. However, before Yang Yaming could move, for advanced stage Immortal King, powerhouses blocked his way. 5th Prince, you'd better behave yourself and come with us to the 9th Prince's palace. A advanced stage Immortal King powerhouse in green stretched out his hand to stop Yang Yaming and said indifferently, "The 9th Prince has already accepted your force. As long as you submit to him, he will give you what you want and ensure that you won't die." 9th brother? Yang Yaming's face turned very ugly. Among the princes of the Divine Wind Empire, the eldest Prince Yang Xiaoxiu, the 4th Prince Yang Chang, the 9th Prince Yang Shui, and the 13th Prince Yang Qinghao were all difficult opponents. However, the eldest Prince Yang Xiaoxiu had already been killed, so his force would naturally be divided among the other princes. The remaining 4th Prince, 9th Prince, and 13th Prince were the best contenders for the Crown Prince position this time. "I've always treated you well. Why did you betray me?" Yang Yaming didn't immediately answer if he would go to the 9th Prince's palace. Instead, he looked at the cultivator in green and said indifferently, in the competition for the Crown Prince position, "If you change your support at the last minute, I'm afraid your outcome will be very miserable." He, a wise man, submits to circumstances. The cultivator in green smiled faintly and said, "Perhaps the 5th Prince doesn't know, but the Emperor personally issued an oral order 3 days ago, allowing quasi-emperor powerhouses to compete for the Crown Prince position. The many princes of the Divine Wind Empire all have supporters. The 4th Prince, 9th Prince, and 13th Prince all have the support of several quasi-emperors. As for you, so far, you only have the support of one quasi-emperor. If you were me, what would you choose?" Yang Yaming finally understood. If a quasi-emperor was involved, then it was understandable that the cultivator in green would change his side at the last minute. After all, there was only one quasi-emperor supporting him, and it was a rank one quasi-emperor. The 4th prince, 9th prince, and 13th prince all had the support of many quasi-emperors in the Divine Wind Empire. Furthermore, their mother also had a quasi-emperor supporting her. Under such circumstances, he would naturally become the prince with the least competition. That's right, 5th prince. I have something to remind you of. The cultivator in green continued, Your residence is no longer called the 5th prince's palace, but the 18th prince's palace. The 18th prince's palace? Yang Yeming was slightly taken aback. The 18th prince's name was Yang Zhaokai, and he was Yang Zhaoshu's younger brother. He had the same father and mother as Yang Zhaoshu, unlike the other princes who had different mothers. Yang Zhaoshu died tragically, but his younger brother, Yang Zhaokai, still had support from others. One could imagine. It must be that the forces on Yang Zhaoshu's mother's side were not satisfied and wanted to support Yang Zhaokai again. Let's go to the 5th prince's palace first. Yang Yeming took a deep breath, and his figure flashed as he fled into the distance. Whoosh! 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 The expressions of the cultivator in green and the others changed, and they immediately tried to stop Yang Yeming. However, Yang Yeming flicked his finger, and 4 beams of cold light easily knocked the 4 cultivators back several meters, causing them to fall heavily onto the ground. PFFF! Blood spurted out of their mouths. The auras of the cultivator in green and the others instantly dropped to the bottom. As for Yang Yeming and the others, they quickly left and soon disappeared from their sight. Damn it! When did the 5th prince become so strong? The cultivator in green cursed in his heart. Then he dragged his heavy steps toward the 9th prince's palace. He had to quickly go back and tell the 9th prince that the 5th prince was a difficult opponent. At the same time, the people hiding in the air all left. Some went to inform the 4th prince, and some went to inform the 13th prince. Some even secretly entered the imperial palace of the Divine Wind Empire. This book came from Chapter 25-24 Divine Wind Empire. Please search the 5th prince's residence. No, it should be called the 18th prince's residence. Several cultivators gathered in the martial proclamation hall. A young man in his 20s sat at the head of the hall. The young man was none other than Yang Zhaoshu's younger brother, the 18th prince, Yang Zhaokai. If Yang Yeming were here, he would have noticed that Yang Zhaokai's eyes were bright and full of spirit, completely different from his previous timid appearance. Furthermore, Yang Zhaokai's cultivation had reached the terrifying late-stage Immortal King. One had to know. Previously, Yang Zhaoshu's cultivation was only a 5th-stage, half-step Immortal King. The fact that Yang Zhaokai could advance to the late-stage Immortal King was enough to show that his mother's forces had played a great role. At this moment, Yang Zhaokai crushed the voice transmission crystal ball in his hand and looked around the hall. 5th brother has returned, and his cultivation seems to have reached the peak of Immortal King. Everyone who is willing to stop him for me. Swoosh! As soon as Yang Zhaokai's voice fell, the hall instantly fell silent. Most of the people in the hall were Yang Yeming's people. Because Yang Yeming was trapped in the quasi-emperor mystic realm, coupled with a large number of experts sent by Yang Zhaokai's mother, these people were forced to submit to Yang Zhaokai. Now that they heard that Yang Yeming had returned and his cultivation had reached the peak of Immortal King, how could they not have some strange thoughts? Dong dong dong. However, all of this was seen by Yang Zhaokai. Yang Zhaokai stretched out his right hand and gently knocked on the seat under him. If you want to leave, I won't stop you, but you only have one chance. If you miss this opportunity, you won't get another one. Hearing Yang Zhaokai's words, several cultivators in the hall wanted to leave. After all, they had submitted to Yang Zhaokai because they thought that Yang Yeming had died tragically. Now that Yang Yeming had returned, they naturally wanted to submit to Yang Yeming again. Pft, pft, pft. However, how could Yang Zhaokai let them leave? The hearts of these martial artists who had these strange thoughts were all pierced at the same time. Buzz, buzz. Then, a second stage quasi-emperor appeared beside Yang Zhaokai. In the second stage quasi-emperor's hand was a first stage quasi-emperor. The first stage quasi-emperor was Yang Yeming's supporter, Sun Luan. The second stage quasi-emperor was an expert on Yang Yeming's mother's side. Ha ha ha. 18th prince. Now that the 5th prince has returned, you should think about how to explain this to him. Although he was being grabbed by Zhao Feng, Sun Luan still raised his head and laughed wildly. Humph. Zhao Feng snorted and threw Sun Luan aside. He said coldly, "Do you think I dare not kill you?" The reason why I'm keeping you alive is because I want that trash, Yang Yeming, to watch you get killed. I'll go out and take Yang Yeming down right now and let you... Impudent! Before Zhao Feng finished his words, Yang Zhaokai said coldly, "Yang Yeming is my 5th brother. It's not your place to say anything." You. Zhao Feng shifted his gaze and glared at Yang Zhaokai. He wanted to say something, but in the end he had no choice but to shut up. This was the Divine Wind Empire. Even though the power behind him was also very huge, it was still somewhat lacking compared to the Divine Wind Empire. In order to control the Divine Wind Empire through Yang Zhaokai, Zhao Feng could only endure. Gotcha! Meanwhile, at the main entrance of the prince's palace, Yang Yeming clenched his right fist and punched a hole in the sealed door. "How dare you intrude into the 18th prince's palace?" The door was blasted open and 4 or 5 early-stage celestial kings rushed out of the courtyard. Fifth prince? These early-stage celestial kings were dumbfounded when they saw Yang Yeming. Previously, when Yang Yeming was said to be trapped in the secret realm of the quasi-emperor, they thought that Yang Yeming had died tragically. Who would have thought they actually saw Yang Yeming again? But soon, the expressions of these early-stage celestial kings changed drastically. They were all Yang Yeming's people before. Now that they had surrendered to Yang Zhaokai and Yang Yeming had returned, what should they choose? Should they continue to surrender to Yang Zhaokai or Yang Yeming? "Wang Shui, you're going to stop me." Yang Yeming stared at the early-stage celestial king and said, "Considering that you've done so many things for me, if you leave now, I can spare your life." The eyes of the early-stage immortal king martial artist, called Wang Shui, kept changing, as if he was having an intense mental struggle. After a while, Wang Shui gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice, "5th prince, I'm willing to surrender to you." "There's no need. Either scram or die," Yang Yeming said coldly. Yang Yeming was definitely not willing to trust a person like Wang Shui again. If he could betray once, he could betray twice, thrice, or even 4 times. If he chose to betray at a critical moment, wouldn't he be finished? Therefore, even if Wang Shui did not continue to surrender to Yang Zhaokai, Yang Yeming would never trust him again. All right, Wang Shui obviously knew what Yang Yeming was thinking. He gritted his teeth and turned to leave. Seeing Wang Shui leave, the other early-stage celestial kings looked at each other and finally left with Wang Shui. Puff! Puff! Just as Wang Shui and the others left, an expert appeared in front of them. This expert was extremely ruthless and directly killed Wang Shui and the others. Clap! After killing Wang Shui and the others, the expert clapped his hands and walked towards Yang Yeming step by step. As he walked, he said, "Not bad. I didn't expect that not only did you not die in the secret realm of the quasi-emperor, but your cultivation actually improved so much. You've advanced to the peak of the celestial king realm. Very good. Tai Wang Hao." Yang Yeming's expression changed slightly. He knew this expert. He was an expert from Yang Zhaoshu's mother's side, a Dao domain realm expert, Tai Wang Hao. A long time ago, he had seen Tai Wang Hao at a banquet and was even mocked by Tai Wang Hao at that time. He did not expect to meet Tai Wanghao here again. It was really the case of enemies meeting, and their eyes were exceptionally red. How about this? I'll stand here and let you punch me 3 times for free. If you can make me move an inch, I'll let you go. Tai Wanghao crossed his arms in front of his chest and said lightly, "As for your idea of entering the 18th prince's residence, I advise you to dispel it as soon as possible. After all, the 18th prince is not as easy to talk to as I am. If he gets angry, it might be very difficult for me." Yang Yeming clenched his fists tightly, his body trembling. He was only a peak celestial king, while Tai Wanghao was a peak Dao domain realm expert. Even if he was given 30 punches, he would not be able to make Tai Wanghao move an inch, let alone 3 punches. There's no need for 3 punches. At this time, Ningyu took a step forward slightly, patted Yang Yeming's shoulder, and said calmly, "To deal with this kind of trash, 1 punch is enough." Swoosh! Yang Yeming glanced at Ningyu gratefully, and then said to Tai Wanghao, "My friend is right. 1 punch is enough to defeat you." The reason why Yang Yeming had this confidence was that when Ningyu patted his shoulder, he quietly injected a terrifying force into his body. Ningyu was a rank 2 quasi-emperor. Forget about a domain realm. Even a heaven-receiving realm expert would find it hard to resist a force like that. This book came from the Chapter 25. Ha ha ha. Tai Wanghao seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He first threw his head back and laughed wildly. Then his expression changed, and he said coldly, "I've seen arrogant people, but I've never seen someone as arrogant as you. I want to see how you're going to defeat me with 1 punch today." Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Tai Wanghao took a step forward, his eyes fixed on Yang Yeming. "We'll know who's arrogant after we try." Yang Yeming had long wanted to teach Tai Wanghao a lesson. However, he was not Tai Wanghao's match, so he could only give up. Now that Ningyu had given him confidence, he naturally had to make a strong move. Swoosh! Yang Yeming circulated his spell and transferred the force in his body to his fist. Then he suddenly dashed out and rushed at Tai Wanghao. Tai Wanghao was rather honest. He thought that he was much stronger than Yang Yeming, so he did not make any moves to block. He only set up a small energy barrier in front of him. Tai Wanghao's thinking was very simple. With Yang Yeming's strength, even if he stood still, he could not break his energy barrier. Crack! However, while his ideal was great, the reality was harsh. When a cracking sound was heard, Tai Wanghao's entire body was sent flying and fell heavily to the ground. Uft! Blood spurted out of his mouth. Tai Wanghao's peak Dao domain aura instantly dropped to the freezing point. You! Tai Wanghao crawled up from the ground with difficulty and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He stared at Yang Yeming with a look of disbelief. Miscalculation. A huge miscalculation. He did not expect Yang Yeming to be so powerful. A peak immortal king could actually force him, a peak Dao domain expert, back with 1 punch and make him vomit blood. This kind of situation was something that he could never have imagined before. One had to know, when he killed the peak immortal king before, he only used 10% of his strength at most. Ever since he advanced to the peak Dao domain realm, there had not been a peak immortal king who could defeat him with 1 punch. What about you? I've said it before. Trash like you can't stop me. Yang Yeming said indifferently. I'll kill you. Tai Wanghao was enraged. This was in front of the 18th prince's residence. While he was talking to Yang Yeming, many onlookers had already gathered around to watch the show. He had shamelessly asked Yang Yeming to attack, but in the end he had been easily defeated by Yang Yeming. This had already been witnessed by everyone. If he couldn't regain his face, then in the future it would be difficult for him to do anything in the Divine Wind Empire, and he would become the object of ridicule. So, no matter what, he had to heavily injure Yang Yeming, or even kill him today. Ka ka ka. His figure flashed. All the energy in Tai Wanghao's body surged out and gathered on his fist. This time, Tai Wanghao didn't just stand there and let Yang Yiming attack him. Instead, he took the initiative to attack. He wanted to teach Yang Yiming a lesson. Gotcha! However, Tai Wanghao had still underestimated Yang Yiming. No, it should be called underestimating Ningyu. The force that Ningyu transferred to Yang Yiming could not only be used once. Yang Yiming had only expended 1% of his strength in that attack, just now. Now that Tai Wanghao overestimated his strength and wanted to fight with Yang Yiming naturally wouldn't hold back. Kill! This time, Yang Yiming used 9% of his strength. The terrifying force bounced around Yang Yiming's fist and collided with Tai Wanghao's fist. When the two fists collided, Yang Yiming's fist was unharmed. In contrast, Tai Wanghao's fist was broken and his face was pale. One hit was successful. Yang Yiming punched out again. This time, Yang Yiming aimed for Tai Wanghao's heart, intending to kill him with one punch. Humph! However, just as Yang Yiming's fist was about to hit Tai Wanghao's heart, a cold snort suddenly sounded from inside the prince's residence. Immediately after, a shadow swept out from inside the prince's residence and charged straight at Yang Yiming, second-rank quasi-emperor. Seeing this shadow rush out, Ningyu frowned slightly and immediately rose from the ground. What Yang Yiming really wanted to deal with were cultivators below the heaven-receiving realm. As for a quasi-emperor, Ningyu would definitely help him block them. Bang! Without a doubt, Ningyu's fist collided with the second-rank quasi-emperor's fist. This move, Ningyu only used 10% of his strength. Even if it was only 10%, it would be difficult for a second-rank quasi-emperor to withstand it, and his body was sent flying back into the prince's residence. Puchi! While Ningyu had just repelled a second-rank quasi-emperor, Yang Yiming had already used up half of his strength to kill Tai Wanghao. Killing Tai Wanghao, Yang Yiming casually lifted him up and threw him into the prince's residence. Whoosh! Yang Yiming's action completely infuriated the experts in the prince's residence. In an instant, several figures dashed out from the prince's residence and surrounded Yang Yiming and Ningyu. Impudent! At this time, Yang Zhaokai snorted coldly, and a deep voice sounded out, "Invite fifth brother!" Whoosh! Yang Zhaokai's voice played a big role. The cultivators surrounding Yang Yiming and the rest dispersed and opened up a path. Yang Yiming stood on the spot, hesitating to move forward. Let's go. Ningyu knew what Yang Yiming was worried about. He walked forward and patted Yang Yiming's shoulder, saying indifferently, "We cultivators should dare to compete and take back what originally belongs to us." Yang Yiming nodded his head heavily and walked towards the martial proclamation hall. Aoxing Ninglu, watch my eyes and act later. Although Ningyu did not look worried, he was more or less worried. In the prince's residence, he sensed at least 3 mid-level quasi-emperor auras. A mid-level quasi-emperor was a 4th to 6th rank quasi-emperor. After advancing to 2nd rank quasi-emperor, Ningyu believed that he could fight against a peak 3rd rank quasi-emperor and even kill one. However, if he really met a 4th rank quasi-emperor, he would not even have the ability to resist. In other words, a 4th rank quasi-emperor, even if an early 4th rank quasi-emperor wanted to kill him, it would be a piece of cake. There was no other reason. A 4th rank quasi-emperor was considered a mid-level quasi-emperor and was far stronger than a peak 3rd rank quasi-emperor. Don't worry, Ninglu and I are getting stronger every minute and second. Aoxing transmitted his voice to Ningyu. Aoxing was merging his body and refining the short-tailed giant horned beast. Ninglu was refining the Blood Sky Battle Emperor's clone. The strength of the two of them was really increasing with every passing minute and every second. If they were given a period of time, Ning Yu would probably not be their match. With the two of them following, Ning Yu was also much more confident. Y is the third prince of the Dragon War Empire, Mo Shao with Yang Yiming and the rest. At the same time, inside the martial proclamation hall, Yang Zhaokai frowned slightly, feeling slightly surprised. He did not deliberately pay attention to it earlier, but now he discovered Mo Shao. Mo Shao was the third prince of the Dragon War Empire and had a token personally issued by the Emperor of the Dragon War Empire. That token could be said to be a death exemption token. According to the intelligence, Yang Yiming and the others did not go to the core area of the Quasi-Emperor's secret realm. They only wandered around the outer area. There was no Emperor's spiritual liquid in the outer area, so Yang Zhaokai did not think about the Emperor's spiritual liquid. There's nothing that's impossible. Yang Yiming said coldly, 18th brother, you have occupied my residence. If you leave now, I can let bygones be bygones. Let bygones be bygones? Yang Zhaokai seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He laughed wildly. Ha ha ha! Fifth brother, it seems that you think you are invincible after advancing to the peak Immortal King realm. How about this? I will give you a chance. If you can defeat me, I will leave immediately. Defeat you? Yang Yiming glanced at Yang Zhaokai and frowned slightly. In Yang Yiming's view, Yang Zhaokai's cultivation was only at the late stage Immortal King realm. However, for some reason, Yang Yiming felt that Yang Zhaokai was different from before. Previously, Yang Zhaokai looked very dull and timid, and he was afraid of losing his hands and feet. But now, Yang Zhaokai was swift and decisive, and his personality was completely different. 18th Prince. Next to him, Zhao Feng said in a low voice, I advise you not to be impulsive. If you ruin the plan, you will not be able to bear the consequences. How dare you? Yang Zhaokai glanced coldly at Zhao Feng and said, Mother sent you here to guide me, not to criticize me. If you dare to disrespect me again, then don't blame me for using my authority to kill you by force. You. Zhao Feng's expression was extremely cold. However, he took a deep breath and forced himself to endure. Chapter 25-27. Humph. Zhao Feng snorted coldly and glared at Yang Zhaokai. Then he retreated to the side and stopped talking. On the phone, Yang Zhaokai's disrespectful words made Zhao Feng gradually lose his patience. If Yang Zhaokai was not still useful, he would have taught Yang Zhaokai a lesson long ago. Why would he be so timid now? Ignoring Zhao Feng's actions, Yang Zhaokai looked at Yang Yiming and continued, I'll say it again, if you can spar with me, as long as you can defeat me, I'll immediately take everyone away and return the prince's residence to you. But if you lose, speaking up to this point, Yang Zhaokai paused for a moment before continuing, I only have one request. Submit to me, follow me from now on, and follow my lead. Fifth Prince, you can't. Seeing that Yang Yiming wanted to agree to Yang Zhaokai, Sun Luan hurriedly said, 18th Prince is powerful. Even Tai Wanghao is not his match. When Yang Yiming killed Tai Wanghao, he was trapped in the martial proclamation hall and did not see it. However, Sun Luan was very clear about Yang Zhaokai's strength. Tai Wanghao and Yang Zhaokai had sparred before. Tai Wanghao, who was at the peak Dao domain realm, could not even break Yang Zhaokai's defense. Under such circumstances, how could Yang Yiming be Yang Zhaokai's match? It doesn't matter. Yang Yiming waved his hand and said, Since 18th brother wants to spar with me, then I will spar with him. Ha ha ha, great. Yang Zhaokai laughed loudly and said, "Unrelated people, please leave the martial proclamation hall. I want to spar with fifth brother." Swoosh! Yang Zhaokai's voice fell. Many cultivators in the hall walked out one after another. Yang Zhaokai looked back at Zhao Feng and looked outside the hall. His meaning was self-evident. "Fine, you win." Zhao Feng's eyes were cold. He left behind some harsh words and then directly left the hall. After a while, only Yang Zhaokai, Yang Yiming, Ningyu, and Ao Xing were left in the hall. "Fifth brother, you don't trust me?" Yang Zhaokai glanced at Ningyu and Ao Xing and said indifferently, "I can swear that we are just sparring. I won't do anything else." Yang Yiming, was not a fool. He smiled and glanced at the sky out of the corner of his eye. Yang Yiming knew better than anyone else. On the surface, Yang Zhao seemed to be very magnanimous, but in fact that was not the case. There was no one in the martial proclamation hall, but there were a few quasi-emperors in the void. Yang Yiming's trump cards were Ningyu, Ao Xing, and the others. Once Ningyu and the others left and Yang Zhaokai sent the quasi-emperors in the void, what should he do? Therefore, Yang Yiming would never let Ningyu and the others leave. "All right, since fifth brother doesn't trust me, I can't do anything about it." Yang Zhaokai shrugged his shoulders and said, "Let's make this clear first. This is a spar. Don't overdo it. No one is allowed to kill." The word hand fell. Yang Zhaokai abruptly slammed his hands on the chair beneath him, and his body abruptly sprang out. Chi. Yang Zhaokai's speed was very fast. In almost an instant, he arrived in front of Yang Yiming. His right hand clenched into a fist, bringing with it a violent gale of energy. He ruthlessly punched towards Yang Yiming's chest. Bang! At this critical moment, Yang Yiming hurriedly mobilized the strength in his body and unavoidably collided with Yang Zhaokai's fist. The two fists collided. Yang Yiming flew out in a straight line until his body hit the wall. Only then did he stop. On the other hand, Yang Zhaokai stood where he was, as if nothing had happened. Obviously, in this short exchange, Yang Zhaokai had the absolute advantage. The cultivation of the late stage of the Immortal King, there is an extremely terrifying force in his body. Through the short exchange between Yang Zhaokai and Yang Yiming, Ningyu roughly determined some things. Yang Yiming's body had the strength that he had left behind, and so did Yang Zhaokai's body. Even the strength in Yang Zhaokai's body was even more terrifying than the one he had left in Yang Yiming's body. In terms of pure strength, Yang Yiming was definitely not Yang Zhaokai's opponent. Fifth brother, that was just a warm-up. Yang Zhaokai rubbed his slightly swollen fist. Then his figure flashed and rushed out again. Just as Yang Zhaokai had said, the first strike was just a warm-up. For the second attack, Yang Zhaokai mobilized all the strength in his body, wanting to defeat Yang Yiming with one punch. Damn it! Yang Yiming cursed in his heart and also mobilized all the strength that Ningyu had left in his body and collided with Yang Zhaokai's fist. Chi. This move, Yang Yiming's ending, was not much better than before. His body flew out and once again crashed into the wall. Puchi! Dark red blood spurted out. Yang Yiming's aura instantly dropped from the peak of the Immortal King to the early stage of the Immortal King. Furthermore, his aura continued to drop. Fifth brother, help me get rid of the control. I can pretend to admit defeat. Just when Ningyu and the others thought that Yang Zhaokai would definitely win, Yang Zhaokai suddenly said to Yang Yiming through his soul, Yang Yiming's expression changed. He was a little confused. Under normal circumstances, he would definitely lose. But what the hell did Yang Zhaokai mean to help him get rid of the control? Yang Yiming didn't understand. After my brother died, my mother's forces chose me again, wanting me to be a puppet and fight for the position of the crown prince of the Divine Wind Empire for them. Yang Zhaokai explained, You should know better than me what happens to puppets. Puppet? What do you want me to do? Yang Yeming's mind moved, and he asked calmly, Your task is very simple, that is, to defeat me, and then use me as a threat to force those hidden quasi-emperor experts to appear. At that time, I know what to do. Seeing that Yang Yeming was about to agree, Yang Zhaokai's face lit up and he hurriedly said, In fact, Yang Zhaokai had been waiting for this day for a long time. He and Yang Zhaoxiu, strictly speaking, were both puppets. The real Yang Zhaoxiu, Yang Zhaokai, from the moment he was born, was killed by the forces on his mother's side. Therefore, there was no need for a life and death battle between him and Yang Yeming. Yang Yeming did not immediately answer Yang Zhaokai, but shifted his gaze to Ningyu, asking for Ningyu's opinion. To tell the truth, after listening to Yang Yeming's explanation, even Ningyu was a little confused. Melodramatic plot. He did not expect to encounter such a melodramatic plot in the Divine Wind Empire. However, if what Yang Zhaokai said was true, that he was a puppet, then he and Yang Yeming really did not need to fight to the death. He thought about it. Ning Yu said to Yang Yeming, Agree to him first, and lure out the few quasi-emperors in the void. There were at least 3 powerful middle-stage quasi-emperors hidden in the void. Before figuring out which side those middle-stage quasi-emperors were on, it was a good choice to pretend to be a snake with Yang Zhaokai for the time being. Hearing Ning Yu's reply, Yang Yeming took a deep breath, clenched his right fist, and rushed out again. Seeing Yang Yeming rushing towards him, Yang Zhaokai was overjoyed. He hurriedly revealed an opening, and Yang Yeming's fist smashed into his chest, and his body fell heavily to the ground. Yang Yeming was also very sensible. After defeating Yang Zhaokai, he grabbed Yang Zhaokai's neck and said coldly, Trash is trash, and still dare to occupy my residence. Today I will kill you. While speaking, Yang Yeming clenched his right fist and ruthlessly punched Yang Zhaokai's head. This book came from Chapter 25-28. You dare to kill me. Seeing that Yang Yeming's fist was about to land on his head, Yang Zhaokai's face revealed a look of fear and shouted, Royal Father said that princes cannot kill each other. If you dare to kill me, you will definitely be punished by Royal Father. This is my residence. If I kill you, who will know? Yang Yeming smiled slightly, and then his right fist brought along a violent energy wind and fiercely punched towards Yang Zhaokai. This punch, Yang Yeming used 100% of his strength. Acting, of course, he had to act more realistically. Even Yang Yeming did not have any intention of holding back. As long as the quasi-emperor expert in the void did not make a move, then Yang Zhaokai would definitely die today. Swoosh! However, Yang Yeming's plan failed. Just as his fist was about to hit Yang Zhaokai, a cold light suddenly flew out from the void. The target of the cold light was his heart. In a moment of desperation, Yang Yeming directly threw Yang Zhaokai to Ningyu, and he himself slightly leaned to the side, dodging the attack of the cold light. The cold light was only to dissuade Yang Yeming, not to kill him. After all, Yang Yeming was also a prince of the Divine Wind Empire, and killing him in the Divine Wind City was definitely not the wise choice. Bang! Ningyu was also very cooperative with Yang Zhaokai. He kicked Yang Zhaokai and kicked him to Yang Yeming's feet. Yang Yeming took the opportunity to raise his right foot and stepped on Yang Zhaokai's heart and said coldly, I knew you did not have any good intentions. Let those people in the void come out. If they don't come out, I will kill you. Don't be impulsive. Yang Zhaokai endured the pain all over his body, gritted his teeth, and said, There is no life and death enmity between us. Moreover, not waiting for Yang Zhaokai to finish speaking, Yang Yeming kicked him again, causing him to spit out a large mouthful of dark red blood. Stop talking nonsense with me, My patience is limited. Yang Zhaokai released his soul power, paying close attention to the changes in his surroundings. As long as there was another person in the void, he would not hesitate to kill Yang Zhaokai. Just now, the reason why he was ambushed was partly because he was careless, and partly because he was pretending. This was because Ning Yu had warned him the moment the Quasi-Emperor in the void launched a sneak attack on him. Come out. Yang Zhaokai gritted his teeth tightly and said fiercely, I want to see what Trick's fifth brother wants to play today. Voila! The void trembled. Then, for martial artists appeared out of thin air. Hiss! Even though Yang Yuming was prepared, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air when he felt the terrifying aura emanating from these four warriors. 2 early Third Order Quasi-Emperors and 2 early Fourth Order Quasi-Emperors. With this force, it was already in the bag for Yang Zhaokai to fight for the position of Crown Prince. As expected, there is a problem. After these 4 Quasi-Emperors came out, Ning Yu's gaze was fixed on them. Ning Yu discovered the 2 early 4th rank Quasi-Emperors were standing in a rather special position. It seemed like they were not from the same faction. As for the 2 early rank 3 Quasi-Emperors, they were more straightforward, their faces filled with rage. At this point, Ning Yu made a rough judgment in his heart. No wonder Yang Zhaokai wanted to lure these people out. It turned out that he, a puppet, was not restricted. That was true. Who wanted to be a puppet? Yang Zhaokai wanted to make use of this opportunity to lay his cards on the table and fight for the benefits that belonged to him. Or rather, Yang Zhaokai wanted to kill with a borrowed knife. He wanted Ning Yu to help him get rid of the 2 rank 3 Quasi-Emperors. Ning Yu was no fool. If he joined forces with Ao Xing and the rest, they could easily kill the 2 early rank 3 Quasi-Emperors. However, the consequences of doing so would be unimaginable. After all, this was Divine Wind City, and he did not have much backing. If he acted rashly, he might be schemed against. Ning Yu did not speak. Yang Zhaokai did not speak. The 2 early rank 3 Quasi-Emperors looked at Yang Yuming and did not speak either. Even the 2 early rank 4 Quasi-Emperors did not speak. For a time, the entire martial proclamation hall became extremely quiet. It was as if whoever spoke would be at a disadvantage. The atmosphere became somewhat solemn. After a while, Yang Zhaokai could not bear it anymore and said in a deep voice, Uncle Wang, kill Yang Yuming. Huh. Upon hearing Yang Zhaokai's words, one of the early rank 4 Quasi-Emperors in white raised an eyebrow and said coldly, I hope you understand your position. Whether I kill Yang Yuming or not is not up to you. You dare to disobey my orders. Yang Zhaokai's expression turned cold. He struggled to break free from Yang Yuming's control and took out a golden token. He said to the white-robed rank 4 Quasi-Emperor, This is the token that the current Palace Master of Night Soul Palace gave me. Seeing this token is like seeing the Palace Master. The white-robed rank 4 Quasi-Emperor clenched his fists when he saw the golden token that Yang Zhaokai took out. His expression became extremely sinister. He struggled for a while. Thump! The white-robed rank 4 Quasi-Emperor bent his knees and knelt on the ground. He gritted his teeth and said, Greetings, Palace Master! Thump! 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 The other 3 Quasi-Emperors also knelt on the ground and said in unison, Greetings, Sect Master. Very well. I will now use the authority of the token. Wang Jinza, go kill Yang Yuming. Yang Zhaokai raised the golden token and said in a clear voice, The white-robed rank 4 Quasi-Emperor, called Wang Jinza, had a sinister expression on his face. Even if he succeeded in killing Yang Yuming in Divine Wind City, the consequences were not something he could bear. The Palace Master of Night Soul Palace would definitely not protect him. I'll kill you first. Wang Jinza gritted his teeth and said sternly, Don't think that you can do whatever you want with the Palace Master's token. Even if I kill you, Night Soul Palace can still support a new prince. Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Jinzi dashed out and arrived in front of Yang Zhaokai. The attack of a rank 4 quasi-emperor was extremely powerful. No matter how strong Yang Zhaokai was, he was only a late-stage immortal king. How could a late-stage immortal king withstand the attack of a rank 4 quasi-emperor? However, Yang Zhaokai was extremely cunning. When Wang Jinzi arrived in front of him, he quickly hid behind Yang Yiming, hoping that Yang Yiming would block Wang Jinzi's attack for him. Bang! Ningyu saw all of this. Ningyu raised his right leg and kicked Yang Zhaokai's butt, sending him flying towards Wang Jinzi. Oh no! The sudden change made Yang Zhaokai's expression change drastically. He hurriedly called out, "Uncle Qin, save me!" Swoosh! Yang Zhaokai's cry for help had some effect. The other early stage, rank 4 quasi-emperor immediately came in front of him and blocked Wang Jinzi's attack for him. How dare you block me? Wang Jinzi was a little surprised. He did not expect that a puppet like Yang Zhaokai could actually bite over Qin He. One had to know. Qin, he was an early stage, rank 4 quasi-emperor. What could Yang Zhaokai take out to tempt Qin He? Could it be that Yang Zhaokai had the emperor's spiritual liquid? Or did Yang Zhaokai have the blood essence of a high-level quasi-emperor? Chapter 25-29. So what if I stop you? After blocking Wang Jinzi's attack, Qin He said indifferently, "Let me give you a piece of advice. Yang Zhaokai has the palace lord's token. If you kill him, you won't have an easy time either." Humph! If I don't kill him, I won't have an easy time either. Wang Jinzi snorted coldly. Qin He, let me ask you one last time. Are you going to continue to oppose me? Sha sha sha. Qin He did not speak, but moved to stand in front of Yang Zhaokai. His meaning was self-evident. No matter what. Today, Wang Jinzi's attack on Yang Zhaokai had determined his fate. Whether it was the emperor of the Divine Wind Empire or the palace lord of the Night Soul Palace, they would definitely not let Wang Jinzi off. If Wang Jinzi was only a heaven-receiving realm expert or a rank 1 quasi-emperor, he could still live, but he was a rank 4 quasi-emperor. If the news that a rank 4 quasi-emperor attacked a prince of the Divine Wind Empire spread, the Divine Wind Empire would definitely become a laughingstock. Therefore, no matter what, the emperor of the Divine Wind Empire would kill Wang Jinzi forcefully and would not be lenient. Kill! Wang Jinzi roared at the sky and used all his strength to attack Yang Zhaokai. Rumble! Unfortunately, with Qin He blocking, how could Wang Jinzi succeed? After several attacks, Wang Jinzi could not get close to Yang Zhaokai. You too, kill Yang Zhaokai. Seeing that he could not kill Yang Zhaokai, Wang Jinzi turned to the 2 early rank 3 quasi-emperors beside him and said, "If either of you can kill Yang Zhaokai, I can promise to help him advance to rank 4 quasi-emperor in the future." There would always be brave men with great rewards. Under the temptation of a rank 4 quasi-emperor, the 2 early rank 3 quasi-emperors attacked, surrounding Yang Zhaokai from both sides. Retreat! Ningyu grabbed Yang Yiming and quickly retreated. Let them settle the matter between them. At least, now was not the time to get involved. When they were almost done fighting, he would reap the benefits. After all, Ningyu found that there was still a rank 4 quasi-emperor in the void who had not attacked. Relatively speaking, the rank 4 quasi-emperor in the void was the real expert. Mid-4th rank quasi-emperor, Wang Jinzi and Qin He were only early stage 4th rank quasi-emperors. However, the quasi-emperor in the void was a terrifying mid-stage 4th rank quasi-emperor. You're courting death. 2 rank 3 quasi-emperors joining the battle enraged Qin He. If he were to face Wang Jinzi alone, he could easily contend with him. With the addition of 2 early rank 3 quasi-emperors, the courage on his shoulders would increase significantly. It wasn't that he would be killed, but that he couldn't guarantee Yang Zhaokai's survival. Fifth brother, save me. Yang Zhaokai also panicked. A rank 3 quasi-emperor attacking him was something he had never expected. According to his calculations, Wang Jinza would want to kill him, and then Qin He and the 2-tier 3 quasi-emperors would join forces to kill Wang Jinza. Now, Wang Jinza had convinced a rank 3 quasi-emperor, putting him in a passive position. Should we save him? Outside the martial proclamation hall, Yang Yeming glanced at Ningyu and said, Yang Zhaokai's death here has somewhat affected me. Do you think I can save Yang Zhaokai? Ningyu asked calmly. This, Yang Yeming hesitated. He still didn't know how strong Ningyu was. However, seeing how calm Ningyu was, he felt that Ningyu should be able to deal with a rank 3 quasi-emperor. In fact, he felt that Ningyu could deal with a rank 4 quasi-emperor. If Ningyu knew what Yang Yeming was thinking, he would probably roll his eyes. With his early rank 2 quasi-emperor cultivation, coupled with the great Tao of devouring, he could at most contend with a peak rank 3 quasi-emperor and even kill him. Against a rank 4 quasi-emperor, his chances of victory were 0. Don't be anxious. If Yang Zhaokai wants to live, he has to pay a price. Ningyu waved his hand, indicating for Yang Yeming not to be anxious. Yang Zhaokai thought that he was the Oriole, but little did he know that the real Oriole was not him. As for the battle in the martial proclamation hall, Ningyu did not pay much attention. Yang Zhaokai would not die so easily. He saw clearly that Yang Zhaokai's eyes were flustered, but he did not lose his composure. This meant that Yang Zhaokai still had other trump cards. Which side is this rank 4 quasi-emperor on? Ningyu's brows were tightly knitted together. He thought about it. Ningyu explained the characteristics of a rank 4 quasi-emperor to Yang Yeming. Perhaps Yang Yeming knew who this rank 4 quasi-emperor was. As expected, Yang Yeming indeed knew what a rank 4 quasi-emperor was. Rank 4 quasi-emperor Quangu. This rank 4 quasi-emperor was not from Night Soul Palace, but rank 4 quasi-emperor Quangu of the Divine Wind Empire. In the Divine Wind Empire, only experts whose cultivation reached the rank of rank 4 quasi-emperor could have a title. Quangu was a title personally conferred by the Emperor of the Divine Wind Empire 1,000 years ago. A rank 4 quasi-emperor of the Divine Wind Empire? Ningyu frowned slightly. If rank 4 quasi-emperor Quangu was a neutral party, then he could step forward to help Yang Zhaokai. However, before helping Yang Zhaokai, he needed to obtain rank 4 quasi-emperor Quangu's approval. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu instructed Yang Yeming to communicate with rank 4 quasi-emperor Quangu and probe him to see if he was a neutral party. No problem. In fact, there was no need for Ningyu to say it. When Yang Yeming learned that the rank 4 quasi-emperor hidden in the void was rank 4 quasi-emperor Quangu, he immediately made a judgment in his heart. Soul power gushed out. Yang Yeming began to communicate with rank 4 quasi-emperor Quangu. While Yang Yeming was communicating with rank 4 quasi-emperor Quangu, Qin he was still fighting with Wang Jinza and the others, fighting 1 against 3. Although 2 of them were rank 3 quasi-emperors, the pressure on Qin He's shoulders was increasing. If this situation continued, at most an hour, Yang Zhaokai would be killed. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, half an hour passed. Okay. Yang Yeming suddenly nodded at Ningyu and said, rank 4 quasi-emperor Quangu agreed. Got it. Ningyu gradually came to a decision in his heart. Even if rank 4 quasi-emperor Quangu agreed, he would not make a move immediately. He was waiting for the best opportunity. The icing on the cake was far inferior to providing timely help. Ning Yu's idea was to force Yang Zhaokai to use his final trump card. After all, Yang Zhaokai was more cunning. He could not force him to use his trump card at this time. Once Wang Jinzi was captured, no one would be able to restrain him. Damn it! Yang Zhaokai cursed inwardly. At the 50th minute, he roared at Yang Yaming again. "Fifth brother, what are you waiting for?" Benefits. Ning Yu came in front of Yang Yaming and said indifferently to Yang Zhaokai, "Old fox." Yang Zhaokai glared fiercely at Ning Yu and said, "If you help me kill 2 rank 3 quasi-emperors, I will give you Wang Jinzi's corpse." "How can I trust you?" Ning Yu would not be deceived by Yang Zhaokai. Chapter 2530. How do I make you believe me? While hiding behind Qin He, Yang Zhaokai rolled his eyes. Soon after, he clenched his teeth, as though he had made some kind of difficult decision. He said in a deep voice, "I can open my mind and let a wisp of your soul force enter my sea of consciousness to control me. If I don't hand over Wang Jinzi's corpse to you, you can trigger the soul force in my sea of consciousness and turn me into a fool." Whoosh! Upon hearing Yang Zhaokai's words, Ning Yu was slightly stunned and felt that it was somewhat unbelievable. Could it be that Yang Zhaokai's trump card was in his body? He could easily break the soul force control. The more he thought about it, the more Ning Yu felt that it was possible. After all, his soul force was hidden in his sea of consciousness, which meant that Yang Zhaokai's life was in his hands. If he let Yang Zhaokai live, then Yang Zhaokai would live. If he let Yang Zhaokai die, then Yang Zhaokai would die without a doubt. In this situation, Yang Zhaokai still dared to open his mind and let his soul force enter his sea of consciousness. Obviously, he had a way to resist his soul force. However, how could Ning Yu be afraid of Yang Zhaokai? Taking a deep breath, he said to Ao Xing and Ning Lu on the side, "Lend me some origin energy, I need it." Ao Xing was a true dragon, Ning Lu was a world tree. Their origin power was extremely terrifying. Even if it was just a little bit, it could have an absolute suppression effect. Coupled with Ning Yu's soul force, it would be harder for Yang Zhaokai to break it than to reach the heavens. No problem. After obtaining Ao Xing's and Ning Lu's origin energy, Ning Yu nodded at Yang Zhaokai and said, "As long as my spiritual energy enters your body, I will immediately act and help you deal with 2 early 3rd rank quasi-emperors." All right. Yang Zhaokai was straightforward. He opened up his mind without any hesitation. Xiao. Ning Yu controlled his soul force. Ao Xing's and Ning Lu's source energies quietly flew towards Yang Zhaokai. Under Yang Zhaokai's calm gaze, they entered his sea of consciousness. Just as his soul force entered Yang Zhaokai's sea of consciousness, Ning Yu sensed something unusual. As expected, there was a terrifying force in Yang Zhaokai's sea of consciousness. That force was hidden in the dark. If not for Ning Yu's careful observation, he would not have noticed it. He has a few tricks up his sleeve. Ning Yu thought. Yang Zhaokai was no fool. Wang Jinzi was an early rank for quasi-emperor. His corpse was very useful. At the very least, he could refine a few drops of quasi-emperor blood essence. As for the blood essence of a quasi-emperor, it could help him win over the hearts of the people and nurture experts. Why would he want to hand it over to Ning Yu? Humph! How stupid! Yang Zhaokai snorted, as if everything was under his control. Go! Ning Yu did not expose Yang Zhaokai. He stomped his feet on the ground and immediately dashed out. Given his cultivation as an early 2nd rank quasi-emperor and the great Tao of devouring, it was naturally not difficult for him to deal with an early 3rd rank quasi-emperor. Rumble. The battle broke out instantly. 1 against 2. Ning Yu did not seem to be at a disadvantage. If not for fear that killing 2 3rd rank quasi-emperors prematurely would expose some of his trump cards. Ningyu did not choose to use the great Tao of devouring. He did not even activate the war god body. Relying solely on the cultivation of an early second-rank quasi-emperor, he fought with two early third-rank quasi-emperors. For a moment, both sides were actually somewhat evenly matched. Even so, Ning Yu blocked the two third-rank quasi-emperors, which also bought a lot of time for Qin He. Crack! Qin He forced Wang Jinzi back with a punch. He hurriedly took out a white medicinal pill and threw it into his mouth. The medicinal pill melted in his mouth and went down his throat into his stomach. The medicinal pill that Qin He swallowed was an emperor-rank medicinal pill. Its effect was extremely overbearing. A medicinal pill entered his stomach. Qi, qi, qi. Qin He's weak aura began to soar at a terrifying speed. In a short few seconds, Qin He recovered from his weak state to his peak state. Qin He and Wang Jinzi were both early fourth-rank quasi-emperors. Now, one was in his peak state and the other was in a weak state. If the battle continued, the result could already be predicted. Wang Jinzi would lose without a doubt. Go. Wang Jinzi knew this point. He glared fiercely at Yang Zhaokai, then tore the void with both hands and directly tunneled in. Wang Jinzi was clearer than anyone about the consequences of continuing to fight. As the saying went, where there is life, there is hope. Wang Jinzi did not wish to die here. He wanted to leave and find a place to lie low. In the future, when he cultivated to fifth-rank quasi-emperor, or even sixth-rank quasi-emperor, he would come back and kill Yang Zhaokai. Where are you going? However, how could Qin He allow Wang Jinzi to leave? The destructive power that an early fourth-rank quasi-emperor could cause was extremely great. If he let Wang Jinzi go today, in the future, Yang Zhaokai's forces would very likely be completely massacred. Soul-extinguishing fist. Qin He clenched his right hand into a fist. A terrifying energy fluctuation appeared, and he punched at the void ruthlessly. Qin He used a full 100% of his strength in this punch, because today was the best opportunity to kill Wang Jinzi. If he missed this opportunity, there would be no more. I'm not resigned. Not long later, a hysterical scream came from Wang Jinzi's mouth. As for Wang Jinzi himself, he fell from the void and crashed heavily onto the ground. Uft! Blood spurted out of his mouth. Wang Jinzi's aura instantly dropped from the early fourth-rank quasi-emperor to the early first-rank quasi-emperor level. In fact, it continued to drop. Bang! There was a muffled sound. Wang Jinzi's aura dropped to the heaven-receiving realm. Quasi-Emperor Quanggu, this is an internal matter of our Night Soul Palace. Why did you interfere? Wang Jinzi did not look at Qin He, nor did he look at Yang Zhaokai. Instead, he stared at the void and said coldly, "Aren't you afraid of the Palace Master of Night Soul Palace?" Buzz! The void trembled. Then Quasi-Emperor Quanggu appeared from the void. Haha. Quasi-Emperor Quanggu smiled and said indifferently, "I don't want to interfere with the internal affairs of Night Soul Palace, but I want to tell you clearly that this is the Divine Wind Empire, not Night Soul Palace. Even if your palace master comes, he won't dare to say anything." You. Wang Jinzi clenched his fists tightly, and his expression was extremely cold. He was about to leave just now, but who would have thought that Quasi-Emperor Quanggu would seal the void, causing his speed to be slightly slower, and he was hit in the chest by Qin He's attack. Otherwise, there was no way that Qin He could catch up to him alone. Take care of your own matters. Quasi-Emperor Quanggu glanced at Yang Yiming and Yang Zhaokai one last time, then tore open the void and entered. Bang! Bang! Quasi-Emperor Quanggu had just left. On the other side, Ningyu seized the opportunity and threw two punches, sending two early third-rank quasi-emperors flying and landing at Qin He's feet. Ning Yu would not kill early third-rank quasi-emperors. His goal was to send the third-rank quasi-emperors to Qin Hi's side and let him deal with them. Chapter 2531. Many thanks. Qin, he gave a cupped fist salute as he glanced at Ningyu. Qin, he was very grateful to Ningyu. If not for Ningyu blocking the 2 early third-rank quasi-emperors for him, he would still be fighting with Wang Jinze, and he did not know when he would have one. Although Wang Jinze's defeat was partly due to quasi-emperor Kuangwu's help, Ningyu's role could not be ignored. No need. I have an agreement with Yang Zhaokai. Ningyu waved his hand and said, I hope you can kill Wang Jinze as soon as possible and hand over his corpse to me. This, Qin, he turned to look at Yang Zhaokai with a questioning expression. The price of handing over Wang Jinze's corpse to Ningyu was honestly quite high. A 4th-rank quasi-emperor was a mid-level quasi-emperor. Not only was his essence, blood, and physical body useful, but his memories were also very useful. If some peak 3rd-rank quasi-emperors obtained the memories of a 4th-rank quasi-emperor, they would have a very high chance of breaking through to the 4th-rank quasi-emperor realm. Yang Yeming, do you really want Wang Jinze's corpse? Yang Zhaokai placed his hands behind his back, appearing very confident. He took a step forward, raised his right foot, and stepped on Wang Jinze's head. He said indifferently, I can make the decision to let you have the corpses of the other 2 early rank 3 quasi-emperors. Furthermore, I will leave the prince's residence and give it to you. You mean to say that you want to go back on your word? Yang Yeming had previously discussed this with Quasi-Emperor Kuangwu. Quasi-Emperor Kuangwu also wanted Wang Jinze's corpse. Therefore, he had to fight for Wang Jinze's corpse no matter what. Ha ha ha! Yang Zhaokai suddenly laughed wildly. After laughing wildly, Yang Zhaokai exerted a little force with his right foot and directly crushed Wang Jinze's head. At this point, Wang Jinze of the Night Soul Palace, an early 4th-rank quasi-emperor, died tragically on the spot. 5th brother, is he the one you're relying on? Yang Zhaokai's lips curled up. He glanced at Ningyu and said, Ningyu, tell me who Wang Jinze's corpse belongs to. While they were speaking, Yang Zhaokai stimulated the force in his sea of consciousness, wanting to force out Ningyu's soul force. Pucci. However, Yang Zhaokai had just activated his strength when he felt that Ningyu's soul force was on the verge of exploding. At this time, Yang Zhaokai panicked. Why was the force unable to expel Ningyu's soul force? Once Ningyu's soul force exploded in his sea of consciousness, the consequences would be unimaginable. What happened? Seeing the change in Yang Zhaokai's expression, Qin Hi's expression changed slightly as he asked. Now, Qin Hi and Yang Zhaokai were already grasshoppers on the same rope. They were bound together for good or bad. If Yang Zhaokai could become the crown prince, his status would rise, and he might even gain absolute power in Night Soul Palace. However, if anything were to happen to Yang Zhaokai, his fate would not be any better. After all, Wang Jinze's death had something to do with him. The palace lord of Night Soul Palace must have already known about Wang Jinze's death. The palace lord did not send him a message because Wang Jinze had already died, and the palace lord did not want him to die as well. I'm fine. Yang Zhaokai took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. In front of Qin Hi, Yang Zhaokai knew that he could not show the slightest bit of panic. Otherwise, Qin Hi might really turn to Yang Yeming. You win. Yang Zhaokai glared at Ningyu and said in a low voice, Give Wang Jinze's body to Yang Yeming. Let's go. Bang. He exerted a little force with his right foot. Yang Zhaokai kicked Wang Jinze toward Ningyu. Ning, you did not go to pick up Wang Jinze. Yang Yeming had already told him about the conversation between Quasi-Emperor Kuangwu and him. Even if he wanted Wang Jin's body, he could not do so. Ning Yu did not have the guts to go against Quasi-Emperor Quanguo in the Divine Wind Empire for the time being. Thump, thump, thump. The moment Yang Zhaokai and Qin He left, the two early-stage third-order quasi-emperors immediately knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Ningyu. Please spare our lives. We are third-order quasi-emperors. We can do many things for you. Yang Zhaokai was not stupid. He would not go against Ningyu until he expelled the soul force from his knowledge sea. He originally wanted to take the third-stage quasi-emperor away. But on second thought, if he took the third-stage quasi-emperor away, what if Ningyu unleashed his invincible might? One had to know that his weakness was in Ningyu's hands. What things can you do for us? Ningyu crossed his arms and looked at the two kowtowing third-order quasi-emperors with interest. Tell me, if I am satisfied, I don't mind letting you go. The two early-stage third-order quasi-emperors looked at each other and gritted their teeth. We know everything about Yang Zhaokai. We can tell you. Speak, Ningyu said. One of the slightly plump early-stage third-order quasi-emperor hurriedly said. Yang Zhaokai is actually not Yang Zhaokai. The real Yang Zhaokai is long dead. This Yang Zhaokai is a fake. The other, slightly thinner, early-stage third-order quasi-emperor added. Yang Zhaokai is very scheming. He is not as simple as he looks on the surface. According to my understanding, he secretly cultivated a terrifying force. The martial artists inside are all quasi-emperor powerhouses. That's all. Ningyu asked. Honestly speaking, this information was not very helpful to Ningyu. Unless Yang Zhaokai had a high-level quasi-emperor backing him up, the soul force in his knowledge sea could not be expelled. As long as the soul force could not be expelled, then Yang Zhaokai was destined to be controlled by him. What else? The two early-stage third-order quasi-emperors were puzzled. Ningyu ignored them and turned to look at Yang Yiming. What do we do with these two people? Do we kill them or keep them? Ningyu was not a hothead. Whether to kill the third-order quasi-emperors or let them go, it was up to Yang Yiming. Behind Yang Yiming was Quasi-Emperor Quanguo, and Quasi-Emperor Quanguo represented the Emperor of the Divine Wind Empire. The Palace Lord of Night Soul Palace did not dare to do anything to Yang Yiming, but he could. Keep them. Yang Yiming thought for a moment and said, Rest here for a while. I have something to do. No problem. Be careful. Ningyu nodded. I know. Yang Yiming took the two black elixirs from Sun Luin's hands and threw them to the two early-stage third-order quasi-emperors. Swallow them and follow me. Crack, crack. Under the threat of death, the two third-order quasi-emperors swallowed the black elixirs without another word and left the hall with Yang Yiming. After Yang Yiming and the others left, Ningyu took out a few more drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid and tossed them to Xiao Duanya, Lin Lang, and the others. He said, Everyone, use this period of time to properly cultivate. Strive for everyone to advance a step further. Xiao Duanya and Lin Lang were both at the Dao domain realm. Ningyu hoped that they could advance to the Dao Advent realm as soon as possible, or even the heaven receiving realm. Chapter 2532. In the Martial Proclamation Hall. Ning Lu frowned slightly as he looked at Ningyu. Ningyu, are you sure we want to stay and assist Yang Yiming in his fight for the position of Crown Prince? This is the Divine Wind Empire, and there are mid-level and high-level quasi-emperors. With our strength, we might not be able to gain any benefits if we join in. I've considered this point. How could Ningyu not know what Ning Lu was worried about? It was the possibility of encountering danger. However, when they left the quasi-emperor mystic realm, Mu Hai said that experts from the sacred mountain would come looking for them in at most 3 days. Under such circumstances, Staying in the divine wind empire would be safer. After all, he did not know what kind of place the sacred mountain was, or what the attitude of the experts from the sacred mountain was like. One must be vigilant. Staying in the divine wind empire to help Yang Yumming fight for the position of crown prince was perhaps the best choice now. Up to you. I'm going into seclusion. Ning Lu thought for a moment, then leaped up and entered the Red Fiend sword to lie dormant. Ao Xing did not enter the Red Fiend sword. He sat cross-legged in the martial proclamation hall and continued to refine the short-tailed, giant, horned beast. Swoosh! As for Ningyu, with a flick of his wrist, he retrieved dozens of drops of Great Emperor's spiritual liquid and began to devour them. Ningyu's current cultivation was that of an early-level second-level quasi-emperor. He could contend against and even kill ordinary peak third-level quasi-emperors. However, Ningyu was not satisfied with the current situation. In the next 3 days, he needed to raise his cultivation to peak second-level quasi-emperor as much as possible, because only when his cultivation reached peak second-level quasi-emperor would he be qualified to fight against a fourth-level quasi-emperor. Otherwise, if a fourth-level quasi-emperor attacked him, he would die without a doubt. At this time, Ningyu had more than 1,000 drops of Great Emperor's spiritual liquid on him. Ningyu would not foolishly devour the Great Emperor's spiritual liquid himself. He used the devouring Great Tao to devour the Great Emperor's spiritual liquid and improve together. At the same time, Ningyu also used the Emperor's spiritual liquid to cultivate his God of War body, so he could break through to the third form of the God of War as soon as possible. The peak of the second transformation of the war, God allowed his body to be as strong as a peak second-order quasi-emperor. The third transformation of the war, God could very well make his body as strong as a peak third-order quasi-emperor. Drip, drip. Cultivation was like rowing a boat against the current. If one did not advance, they would fall behind. Time was ticking away. Inside the Red Demon Sword, Ning Lu spent a day completely refining the Blood Sky Battle Emperor's doppelganger. His cultivation soared from the peak of the second-rank quasi-emperor realm to the late third-rank quasi-emperor realm. Although the Blood Sky Battle Monarch's clone was a peak rank for quasi-emperor, Mu Hai and the others had taken away his source energy to calculate the location of the Blood Sky Battle Monarch's true body. Otherwise, after refining the Blood Sky Battle Emperor's doppelganger, Ning Lu could at least advance to the peak of the third-order quasi-emperor realm and not the late third-order quasi-emperor realm. Boom! Ning Lu left the Red Demon Sword as soon as he advanced to late-stage third-order quasi-emperor. However, as soon as Ning Lu's foot left the Red Devil Sword, Ao Xing's body emitted a surge of energy that soared into the sky. Late-stage third-order quasi-emperor. Like Ning Lu, Ao Xing's cultivation had also reached late-stage third-order quasi-emperor realm. Ning Lu frowned slightly. He discovered that there was still some energy in Ao Xing's body that had not been refined. In other words, Ao Xing's physical body had not completely merged with his illusory body. Without completely merging, Ao Xing's cultivation recovered to late-stage third-order quasi-emperor. One could imagine that once it was completely merged, Ao Xing's cultivation could at least recover to the fourth-order quasi-emperor realm. However, there was one point that Ning Lu was more puzzled about. Ao Xing had already left the quasi-emperor mystic realm. Why was he still with them? Could it be that he had no relatives or friends? However, Ao Xing did not say, so Ning Lu did not ask. Anyway, Ao Xing's strength was not weaker than his. With Ao Xing, this helper, he might really be able to help Yang Yumming compete for the position of crown prince. Ao Xing, who had recovered to late-stage third-order quasi-emperor, would not be at a disadvantage even if he fought with a mid-stage fourth-order quasi-emperor. After all, Ao Xing's original body was a true dragon and possessed the body of a true dragon. As for him, since his original body was a world tree, He would not be at a disadvantage when fighting with a mid-stage fourth-order quasi-emperor. In fact, Ning Lu was more concerned about Ningyu. Although he was refining Blood Sky Battle Emperor's doppelganger in the Red Demon Sword, Ning Lu's attention was always on Ningyu. At first, Ningyu swallowed 10 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid. After half an hour, Ningyu seemed to feel that 10 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid was not effective, so he directly swallowed 100 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid. One should know, that was high-class Emperor's spiritual liquid. Even he, swallowing 100 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid at once, was somewhat difficult. Whether Ningyu could completely refine the Emperor's spiritual liquid, Ning Lu was not particularly certain. Swish! At this time, Ningyu's eyes suddenly opened. Without saying anything, he took out another 100 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid and swallowed them. Gulp! Seeing Ningyu's action, Ning Lu and Ao Xing exchanged a glance, both seeing a trace of astonishment in each other's eyes. 200 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid. This number had already far exceeded their imagination. Swish! However, the most shocking thing had yet to happen. Ningyu seemed to feel that 200 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid was not enough. He took out another 100 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid and swallowed them. What the F***CK? Ning Lu and Ao Xing burst out cursing after seeing Ningyu's action. 300 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid. What was Ningyu trying to do? The two did not disturb Ningyu, but paid close attention to the surroundings. If someone were to disturb Ningyu at this time, the consequences would be unimaginable. You stay here and guard him. Ning Lu stomped his foot and leaped into the air. He flew to the front of the martial announcing hall and stood guard there. Ao Xing stood beside Ningyu, guarding Ningyu. I'll refine 100 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid myself. 100 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid for the devouring Tao, and 100 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid to cultivate the 3 forms of the divine god of battle. Ningyu did not pay any attention to Ning Lu and Ao Xing's astonishment. He did not dare to refine 300 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid at once. In his opinion, he only refined 100 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid. The remaining 200 drops were given to the devouring Tao, while the remaining 100 drops were used to cultivate the 3 forms of the divine god of battle. Only by cultivating 3 forms at the same time could his strength reach its limit. Bang! 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 A while later, 3 dull thuds took place in a row. The first thud was produced when Ningyu's cultivation ranked up to the mid-stage second-order martial monarch realm. The second thud was produced when the devouring Tao completely refined 100 drops of Emperor's spiritual liquid, raising its ranking to 250th. The third thud was produced. It was produced when Ningyu cultivated the 3 forms of the divine god of battle to its peak. Refine with all my might. Ningyu did not continue to use the devouring Tao and the 3 forms of the divine god of battle to consume the Emperor's spiritual liquid. He put away the devouring Tao and concealed his divine god of battle body before focusing on his cultivation. There were only 2 days left until the 3-day deadline. Chapter 2533. No way. While Ningyu was cultivating in a certain study room in the 5th prince's residence, Yan Yuming's expression was cold as he said in a deep voice, "Absolutely not. Ningyu is my benefactor. How can I let him fight for the position of crown prince on my behalf?" 5th prince, beside Yan Yuming, Sun Luen said sternly, "Since Ningyu and the rest chose to stay, they definitely want to fight for the position of crown prince on your behalf. Now that the emperor has set the rules, we must abide by them. But to let Ningyu and a rank for quasi-emperor, forget it. Even if I don't fight for the position of crown prince, I also can't let Ningyu and the rest take the risk. Yan Yeming shook his head and said, Not long ago, Yan Yeming received the imperial edict sent by the emperor. The edict clearly stated the rules of the fight for the position of crown prince. All the princes who wanted to fight for the position of crown prince had to start a contest in the palace. It did not mean that whichever prince was the strongest could fight for the position of crown prince. All the crown princes would engage in arena battles to choose the 2 strongest princes. The rest would be to test the prince's connections. The second rule was to let the prince's aides take action and engage in a great battle with no requirements, which was also a life and death battle. The reason why Yan Yeming was unwilling to let Ningyu take action was that he understood that the other princes each had a rank for quasi-emperor by their side. Even if he could pass the first round, he absolutely could not let Ningyu send himself to death in the second round either. Was Ningyu strong? Yan Yeming felt that Ningyu was strong, very strong. However, no matter how strong Ningyu was, could he be stronger than a rank for quasi-emperor? Yan Yeming knew that Ningyu's cultivation speed was fast, but in 3 days' time, where could Ningyu advance to middle rank quasi-emperor? There was a saying in the quasi-emperor world, those whose cultivation did not reach middle rank quasi-emperor were all ants. The meaning was that if a middle rank quasi-emperor wanted to deal with a quasi-emperor below rank 3, they only needed to use aura pressure, and it was enough to kill them. 5th Prince, young master, now that things have come to this, do you think you can stay out of this? Sun Luin tried his best to make his tone as friendly as possible. Even if you don't compete for the position of crown prince, the other princes will definitely kill you once they ascend the throne. Not only you, Ningyu and the others won't be able to escape either. Don't you know that Wang Jin's death was largely due to Ningyu and the others? Do you think Night Soul Palace will let Ningyu off? Stop joking. If I'm not mistaken, the elites of Night Soul Palace have already arrived at the capital of the Divine Wind Empire. As long as you fail to become the crown prince, the people of Night Soul Palace will kill Ningyu and the others. Sun Luin saw it clearly. He had analyzed the situation thoroughly with just a few words. Yan Yeming had to fight for the position of crown prince, even if he didn't want to. How could there be a prince who cared about his own safety? Sometimes, when one was in the Jianghu, one's actions were beyond one's control. If he didn't fight for it, others would kill him. Although he might not win if he fought for it, it was better than doing nothing and waiting for death. All right, Yan Yeming took a deep breath and said, Give me that elixir. I'm going into seclusion to break through to the heaven-receiving realm, or even the first stage, quasi-emperor. Swoosh! Sun Luin flicked his sleeves and tossed a blood-red elixir to Yan Yeming. An emperor-level elixir, a true emperor-level elixir, the kind refined by a great emperor expert. As the 5th prince of the Divine Wind Empire, how could Yan Yeming not have some trump cards? In the beginning, he had kept the emperor-level elixir for when he reached the heaven-receiving realm, so that he could break through to the second stage, quasi-emperor. But now time was running out. There was news that the 4th, 9th, 13th, and 18th princes had all reached the peak of the heaven-receiving realm and were breaking through to the first stage, quasi-emperor. If he was one step slower, he would fall behind. Crack! Yan Yeming caught the elixir and threw it into his mouth without any hesitation. Along with a clear and melodious sound rang out. The emperor-level elixir was crushed by Yan Yeming's teeth, turning into rich medicinal energy and entering his abdomen. Just swallowing the elixir, Yan Yeming felt an intense pain. This level of pain could even reach the 13th level. Persevere. Sun Luin placed his right hand on Yan Yeming's shoulder and said, 5th Prince, your talent is very high. The reason why your cultivation has been low all these years is because your mother has been helping you suppress it. Now that you've swallowed an emperor-level elixir, whether you transform from a carp to a dragon or a carp to a worm, it all depends on your luck. I know. Yan Yeming gritted his teeth and said, all these years, It was not that Yang Yeming's talent was poor, but he was being suppressed by his mother. Lin Feng would definitely destroy the tree that stood out. Yang Yeming's mother was very open-minded. The emperor of the Divine Wind Empire had many sons. A long time ago, there was a youngest son who displayed extremely powerful talent and cultivated to the immortal king realm at a young age. And at that time, the other princes were still lingering at the heaven monarch realm. However, just as that youngest son was about to break through to the quasi-emperor realm, he was suddenly encircled by a group of mysterious forces and died in another country. At that time, the emperor was furious and said that he would thoroughly investigate. But after a few years, this matter was left unsettled. Since then, the luck of the princes of the Divine Wind Empire seemed to be exhausted, and none of them displayed extremely powerful talent. They seemed to have discussed that if you were a heaven monarch realm, I would be a heaven monarch realm. If you were an immortal king realm, I would be an immortal king realm. No one was willing to advance in advance, but everyone knew. With the emperor's edict, all of this was about to change. In a short period of a day, the 4th prince, 9th prince, 13th prince, 18th prince, and even a few unknown princes all advanced to the peak of the heaven-receiving realm, and were about to break through to the first stage quasi-emperor realm. Under such circumstances, Yang Yeming naturally had to work hard to break through and strive not to fall behind. Drip. Time passed by quickly. Yang Yeming was breaking through, and so was Ningyu. The only hidden danger was that the 5th prince's residence did not have a 4th stage quasi-emperor holding down the fort. After quasi-emperor Quanggu obtained Wang Jin's corpse, he immediately left and returned to his residence to enter closed-door seclusion. Therefore, the 5th prince's residence was the most unsafe of the many princes vying for the position of crown prince. Crack, crack, crack. At this time, next to a fake mountain in the 5th prince's residence, the void trembled and 2 martial artists appeared in the void. 18th prince said that we must kill Ningyu this time. These 2 martial artists, one dressed in white robes, the other in black robes. The white-robed martial artist said in a low voice, "Ningyu is the 5th prince's greatest reliance. As long as we kill him, the 5th prince will automatically give up the fight for the position of crown prince. I don't quite understand. The 5th prince's strength is weak. Even if he participates in the fight for the position of crown prince, it is absolutely impossible for him to pose a threat to 18th prince. Why does 18th prince still take it to heart? Could it be because the 5th prince snatched back the residence?" The black-robed martial artist said doubtfully, "What do you know?" Chapter 2534. Yes, the black-robed martial artist responded, then leaped up and quietly sped towards the martial proclamation Great Hall. Among them, the white-robed martial artist was an early-stage rank 4 quasi-emperor, while the black-robed martial artist was a peak rank 3 quasi-emperor. The 2 of them heading to the 5th prince's residence this time only had one goal, and that was to kill Ningyu. After Yang Zhaokai returned to the 18th prince's residence, he discovered that he was unable to expel the soul force that Ningyu left in his body. Even if he made a move, it was to no avail. Hence, Yang Zhaokai decided to go all out and send someone to kill Ningyu. Ningyu had seen He before, and so had Yang Yeming. So, sending He over was clearly an irrational action. Hence, Yang Zhaokai sent another early-stage rank 4 quasi-emperor, a white-robed martial artist. For safety's sake, Yang Zhaokai also sent an additional peak rank 3 quasi-emperor to follow. If an early-stage rank 4 quasi-emperor and a peak rank 3 quasi-emperor attacked together, Yang Zhaokai believed that Ningyu would definitely die, because Yang Zhaokai had investigated. Quasi-emperor Quanggu was not in the 5th prince's residence. If quasi-emperor Quanggu was in the 5th prince's residence, Yang Zhaokai definitely would not dare to act rashly. After all, he only had 2 rank 4 quasi-emperors on his side. Once one died, it would be a huge loss to him. He could not afford it, and, at the same time, in front of the martial proclamation Great Hall, Ning Lu's brows raised, faintly discovering a void fluctuation. Someone's here. With a thought, Ning Lu hurriedly contacted Ao Xing in the Great Hall. He was in charge of guarding outside the Great Hall, while Ao Xing was in charge of guarding inside. The 2 of them stood guard for Ningyu, preventing anyone from disturbing Ningyu. Now that Ning Lu discovered the black-robed martial artist in the void, he did not choose to act rashly. Ning Lu was very clear. There would definitely be more than one person who dared to come to the martial proclamation Great Hall at this time. Peak rank 3 quasi-emperor. There should be another big fish. Ning Lu's expression became extremely solemn. Although he had advanced to late stage rank 3 quasi-emperor, Ao Xing was also a late stage rank 3 quasi-emperor. But if they fought here, even if they could kill the cultivators in the void, it would definitely affect Ningyu. Ao Xing, did you notice the other martial artist in the void? Ning Lu began communicating with Ao Xing. He didn't dare to release his perception too much, so he only discovered the black-robed martial artist and not the white-robed martial artist. There's also an early 4th order. Ao Xing's expression was also solemn. Ao Xing glanced at Ningyu, who was trying to break through to the peak of the 2nd rank quasi-emperor realm, and said in a low voice, "Don't act rashly and alert the enemy. Go deal with that peak of the 3rd rank quasi-emperor later and try to kill him in one strike. I'll inform Yang Yiming first and get him to activate the formation of the 5th prince's residence to prevent a 4th rank quasi-emperor from escaping." There was a formation in the 5th prince's residence. If the formation was activated, even a rank 5 quasi-emperor would find it hard to escape. However, the activation of the array formation required time. If they beat the grass and startled the snake now, then that rank for quasi-emperor would definitely slip away. Therefore, Ao Xing decided to inform Yang Yiming first, and leave this side to Ning Lu to handle. "I know what to do," Ning Lu replied. After receiving Ning Lu's reply, Ao Xing sat down cross-legged and extended his powerful perception to search for Yang Yiming. In order to prevent the 4th rank quasi-emperor from noticing anything, Ao Xing's perception extended very slowly. Even though the martial proclamation hall was only 1,000 meters away from where Yang Yiming was, it would take several minutes to reach this 1,000 meters. "Don't make a move," Ao Xing thought to himself as he spread out his perception. Might as well. The peak of the 3rd rank quasi-emperor hidden in the void was even more careful than Ao Xing. He approached the martial proclamation hall carefully, afraid that Ning Lu and Ao Xing would discover him. This bought Ao Xing a lot of time. What? 3 minutes later, when Sun Luan received the message from Ao Xing, his entire person was in a state of rage. As Yang Yiming was cultivating, the one who received the message was Sun Luan. Without any hesitation, Sun Luan immediately came to the core area of the 5th prince's residence and expended a large amount of 2 realm stones to activate the formation. Whoosh! As Sun Luan activated the formation, Ao Xing's worried heart eased slightly. The formation only needed 10 seconds to activate. Even if the quasi-emperor in the void attacked now, he did not need to worry too much. Kill! As if sensing something, the rank 3 quasi-emperor in the void let out a loud roar and charged at Ningyu in the Great Hall. Rumble! This punch was extremely powerful and directly blasted a hole in the martial proclamation hall. The black-robed martial artist's fist arrived in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye and was only half an inch away from hitting Ningyu's head. However, at this moment, the black-robed martial artist's expression changed drastically. Without thinking too much, he immediately chose to retreat. Bang! However, The speed of the black-robed martial artist's retreat was clearly slower by half a beat. He had just retreated a few steps when Ning Lu's fist arrived in front of his head and landed on it. Ning Lu was a late-stage, third-rank quasi-emperor. How could a peak third-rank quasi-emperor like the black-robed martial artist withstand his full-force attack? After all, after advancing to late-stage third-rank quasi-emperor, Ning Lu's strength already possessed the capital to contend with a fourth-rank quasi-emperor. In addition, the black-robed martial artist only wanted to escape in his panic, so he did not put up any useful resistance and was easily killed by Ning Lu's punch. Not good. The black-robed martial artist's tragic death caused the expression of the white-robed martial artist hidden in the void to change drastically. The white-robed martial artist was different from the black-robed martial artist. The black-robed martial artist was only a peak third-rank quasi-emperor, while the white-robed martial artist was an early-stage fourth-rank quasi-emperor. Through Ning Lu's attack just now, the white-robed martial artist very easily determined that Ning Lu's strength was extremely powerful. Fighting with Ning Lu, especially in the fifth prince's residence, was clearly not a wise choice. Therefore, the white-robed martial artist immediately took out the quasi-emperor talisman that he had prepared in advance, threw it into the air, and activated it. Whoosh! The quasi-emperor talisman activated, the void trembled, and a vortex appeared. Explode! Before entering the vortex, the white-robed martial artist suddenly triggered the black-robed martial artist's soul power, causing the black-robed martial artist to self-destruct. Damn it! Ning Lu originally wanted to chase after the white-robed martial artist, but when he saw the black-robed martial artist self-destruct, he had no choice but to choose to stop and protect Ning Yu. Instead, it was Ao Xing who attacked at full speed, chasing after the white-robed martial artist and preventing him from entering the vortex. High-grade, quasi-emperor talisman. Ao Xing saw it clearly. The talisman that the white-robed martial artist took out was a high-grade, quasi-emperor talisman. The fifth prince's residence's array formation could not stop it at all. This was the only plan now. Only he could block the white-robed martial artist and prevent him from entering the vortex. As long as he could delay the high-grade, quasi-emperor talisman, then the white-robed martial artist would have no way to escape. Go! Ao Xing gathered the energy in his body, gathered it all on his fist, and punched out with a backhand. Chi-chi! Terrifying energy rubbed against the void, giving off sizzling sounds. Almost in an instant, it arrived in front of the white-robed martial artist. At this moment, the white-robed martial artist faced two choices. First, continue to enter the vortex. Then there was a possibility of being hit by Ao Xing's attack. Chapter 2535. The white-robed cultivator's eyes darted around, quickly thinking of countermeasures. Very soon, the white-robed cultivator made his decision. This was not a good place to stay. Escape was the best plan. If he stayed, he might be able to block Ao Xing's attack, but the result would be that he would be trapped in the formation. If he sneak attacked a prince in Divine Wind City and was discovered by others, then his outcome was destined to be very miserable. Hence, he would rather be hit by Ao Xing's attack and enter the whirlpool to escape the fifth prince's residence. Bang! The instant the white-robed cultivator made his decision, the energy that Ao Xing blasted out arrived behind him and blasted fiercely at his back. Ah! A melodious voice came from the white-robed cultivator, accompanied by the miserable shriek of a pig being slaughtered. I will be back. The instant the white-robed cultivator entered the whirlpool, he did not forget to look back at Ao Xing and said fiercely, Next time, I will definitely kill you. I will cut you into 8 pieces. Is that so? However, the white-robed cultivator had just finished speaking. An indifferent voice rang in his ears. Of course, no, you are Puff. The white-robed cultivator nodded at first, but suddenly his pupils constricted and he wanted to quickly enter the whirlpool. However, it was clearly too late for the white-robed cultivator to enter the whirlpool at this time. Ning Yu raised his right leg and kicked the white-robed cultivator's chest. Crack! 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 The huge force broke several of the white-robed cultivator's ribs. Actually, when the white-robed cultivator came to the fifth prince's residence, Ning Yu had already noticed some clues. The reason why Ning Yu did not come out of seclusion immediately was that he was trying to break through to peak rank 2 quasi-emperor and was at a critical juncture. Under such circumstances, he naturally would not attack rashly, but chose to let Ning Lu and Ao Xing block for a while. Ning Lu and Ao Xing did not disappoint him. Ning Lu easily killed the black-robed cultivator. Ao Xing delayed some time to prevent the white-robed cultivator from leaving. It was this precious time that allowed Ning Yu to advance to peak rank 2 quasi-emperor. After advancing to peak rank 2 quasi-emperor, Ning Yu's strength increased by several times. Originally, Ning Yu thought that even if he advanced to the peak of rank 2 quasi-emperor, his overall strength would only be able to contend against an early rank 4 quasi-emperor. However, Ning Yu had underestimated the power of the devouring Great Tao. Just by relying on his cultivation, he could indeed only contend against an early-stage 4th level quasi-emperor. However, with the addition of the devouring Great Tao, he could easily kill a mid-stage 4th level quasi-emperor. He took a deep breath. Ning Yu moved his feet and arrived in front of the white-robed martial artist. Don't come near me. Seeing Ning Yu walking towards him, the white-robed cultivator revealed a look of horror and hurriedly said, I am the 18th prince's man. If you kill me, the 18th prince will never let you go. 18th prince? Ning Yu raised his eyebrows. It seemed that Yang Zhaokai was not content with his lot. Since that was the case, he might as well teach him a lesson. Thinking of this, with a thought, Ning Yu began to guide Yang Zhaokai's soul force. At the same time, in the 18th prince's residence, Yang Zhaokai let out a hysterical scream and kept rolling on the ground. What's going on? Beside Yang Zhaokai, Qin He's face was full of worry as he hurriedly asked. It's Ning Yu. Forcefully enduring the pain coming from all over his body, Yang Zhaokai said in a cold voice, The people we sent out should have been discovered by Ning Yu and the others. They might even have met with mishap. Impossible. Qin He's pupils constricted as he shook his head. The white-robed martial artist was an early-stage 4th level quasi-emperor, while the black-robed martial artist was a peak 3rd level quasi-emperor. If it was said that the two of them failed, Qin He would somewhat believe it. But if it was said that they met with mishap, Qin He would not believe it at all. He was very clear about Ning Yu's strength. Dealing with early-stage 3rd level and mid-stage quasi-emperors was still possible, but dealing with a 4th level quasi-emperor, he did not even have the chance to escape. Report. At this time, outside the door, a heaven-receiving realm martial artist knelt on one knee, his face pale. This heaven-receiving realm martial artist was holding a token in his hand. At this time, the token was already shattered. What's the matter? Qin He was already in a bad mood, and now that he heard the words of a 1st level quasi-emperor, he immediately asked in a low voice. Zhou Jiaming, the heaven-receiving realm martial artist stammered. He was originally guarding all the quasi-emperor tokens of the 18th prince's residence, and if anything happened, he would immediately inform Yang Zhaokai. Today, he was guarding the quasi-emperor tokens as usual. Who would have thought that the top token would actually shatter? One had to know. That shattered token was Zhou Jiaming's. Zhou Jiaming was a peak 3rd level quasi-emperor, and the most promising existence in the 18th prince's residence to advance to 4th level quasi-emperor. He's dead? The heaven-receiving realm martial artist's legs trembled at the thought. The competition for the position of crown prince had just begun, and a peak third-level quasi-emperor had died in battle. This was not a good sign. Furthermore, even a peak third-level quasi-emperor had died. Wouldn't they, who had yet to reach fourth-level quasi-emperor, also suffer? Bastard! Hearing the heaven-receiving realm martial artist's stammering words, how could Qin he not guess what had happened? Yang Zhaokai, follow me to the fifth prince's residence. You must protect Bai Yutian no matter what. Qin he clenched his fists and said fiercely. No problem. Yang Zhaokai endured the pain all over his body and said through gritted teeth, if Yan Yiming dares to kill Bai Yutian, I will not coexist with him. Swish, swish. The next moment, Yang Zhaokai and Qin he rose from the ground and rushed toward the fifth prince's residence. Ning Yu was unaware of what had happened in the 18th prince's residence. However, even if he knew, he would just laugh it off. Because to him, the most important thing was to interrogate the white-robed martial artist, who was also the Bai Yutian that Yang Zhaokai and the others had mentioned. A fourth-level quasi-emperor was very useful. Ning Yu's thinking was very simple. If the white-robed martial artist was willing to submit to him, then he would naturally spare the white-robed martial artist and even give him a few drops of great emperor's spiritual liquid. However, if the white-robed martial artist did not know what was good for him, then he would not waste any more words and would directly kill the white-robed martial artist. You have two choices now. One, submit to me, and the other, die. Ning Yu's words were very direct. He gently moved his right foot away from the white-robed martial artist's chest and said calmly, You have 3 seconds to consider. Beat, beat, beat. 3 seconds passed in a flash. Speak. Ning Yu crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at the white-robed martial artist. What's your choice? Bai Yutian bit his lips, as if he was in some kind of intense struggle. He really wanted to submit to Ning Yu because he could live if he did so. However, he was afraid that Yang Zhaokai would harm him. After all, apart from Qin He, Yang Zhaokai also had a high-level quasi-emperor from the Night Soul Palace behind him. Was there a high-level quasi-emperor behind Ning Yu? Bai Yutian wanted to ask, but he did not dare to. Ning Yu was decisive in killing and had tyrannical strength. Chapter 2536. He took a deep breath. Bai Yutian clenched his teeth and said in a deep voice, I am willing to submit to you, but I have a condition. You cannot restrict my personal freedom. You have no choice. Ning Yu shrugged and said indifferently, If you want to submit, open your mind. If not, I will send you to hell. Ning Yu would not waste time with Bai Yutian here. His sharp senses had already discovered the 2 people outside the 5th prince's residence. Yang Zhaokai, Qin He. The 2 of them came here at this time. Their intentions were clear. They definitely wanted to save the white-robed cultivator. Although Sun Luin was controlling the formation and dealing with Yang Zhaokai, activating the formation consumed a large amount of 2 realm stones. It would not be worth it to activate it for a long time. Therefore, Ning Yu did not want to waste time. If the white-robed cultivator submitted, he would have another rank for quasi-emperor fighter. If he did not submit, he would have another rank for quasi-emperor corpse. No matter how he looked at it, it was not a loss. I submit. Bai Yutian clenched his teeth and said. As he spoke, Bai Yutian completely relaxed his mind. Swish! A stream of soul power flew out of Ning Yu's body and entered Bai Yutian's body, going dormant. Controlling Bai Yutian was not like controlling Yang Zhaokai. This was because Bai Yutian did not have a terrifying force in his body and could not resist his soul power. Yang Zhaokai was different. Ning Yu could cause some trouble for Yang Zhaokai, but as long as he did not force the terrifying force out of Yang Zhaokai's body, Ningyu would not be able to make Yang Xiaokai submit. It's over. Feeling the additional connection with Ningyu, Bai Youtian's eyes dimmed. So you are called Bai Youtian. After controlling Bai Youtian, Ningyu naturally knew his name. Let's go. Follow me to see your old friend. Ningyu waved his hand and walked out of the fifth prince's residence. Behind him, Ao Xing and Ning Lu followed closely. Bai Youtian hesitated for a moment before following closely behind him. In any case, he had already submitted to Ningyu. If he didn't go out with him now, Ningyu would probably make things difficult for him. Sunlin, do you really think I don't dare to kill you? Outside the fifth prince's residence, Qin, he clenched his fists tightly and said to Sun Lun fiercely, ask Yang Yiming and Ningyu to come out. If they don't hand over Bai Youtian today, I will definitely overturn the prince's mansion. Humph! How arrogant! With the array formation, Sun Luin was much more confident. He scoffed. This is the fifth prince's residence, not the 18th prince's residence. The fifth prince is currently in closed-door cultivation. Those who have nothing to do with it had better scram. Scram? Ha ha ha! Yang Xiaokai threw his head back and laughed wildly. You talk to a prince like that. Aren't you afraid that your family will be exterminated? Don't use these things to scare me. I, Sun Luin, am not one to be scared. Sun Luin didn't budge an inch. Similarly, he said coldly, if you guys don't leave now, I will mobilize the array formation to kill you. You dare. I will stand here and see how you kill me. Yang Xiaokai took a step forward and said, Go. Sun Luin was not that kind of pushover. He had already contacted Yang Yiming. Yang Yiming only had one instruction. Listen to Ning Yu's instructions. And Ning Yu had just sent him a message, telling him to teach Yang Xiaokai a lesson. Hence, Sun Luin flicked his wrist and mobilized the energy in the array formation on the spot, blasting at Yang Xiaokai. My God, you're for real. Yang Xiaokai's expression changed drastically. The fifth prince's residence's array formation was not only full of defensive power, but also very powerful. Yang Xiaokai had only advanced to the peak of the heaven-receiving realm. Naturally, he couldn't withstand it. Bang! Beside Yang Xiaokai, Qin, he clenched his right hand into a fist and suddenly punched out, helping Yang Xiaokai block this energy attack. The energy dissipated. Qin, he said coldly, Sun Luin, you dare to attack the 18th prince. Today I will kill you. Otherwise, any Tom, Dick, or Harry will dare to disrespect the 18th prince. As he spoke, Qin, he clenched his right hand into a fist and punched out again. Qi. The power of an early stage rank for Quasi-Emperor's attack was extremely powerful. Sun Luin was only a rank 1 Quasi-Emperor. How could he withstand Qin He's attack? However, Sun Luin was not afraid in the slightest. He looked at Qin, he with his head held high and chest puffed out. If you kill me, I'm afraid you won't be able to leave this place. Haha, arrogant indeed. I see that you won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Fine, I'll know. Qin, he smiled faintly. Just as he was about to mock him, his expression changed, and he hurriedly withdrew his fist. Because Qin He's keen perception discovered that there were a total of 3 auras in the surroundings that were not weaker than his, locking onto him. The combined strength of the owners of these 3 auras was around rank 4 Quasi-Emperor. Even, he was very familiar with the owner of one of the auras. It was none other than the person that Bai Youtian and the others wanted to kill, Ningyu. Pa. Seeing that Qin, he withdrew his fist. Ningyu walked out of the 5th prince's residence. He clapped his hands and said with a smile, I didn't expect to see you guys again. It's really fate. Subsequently, Ningyu turned and nodded at Sun Luin. Deactivate the formation. There's no need to activate it. Yes. Sun Luan glared at Qin. He one last time before entering the fifth prince's residence and deactivating the formation. What fate? Let go of Bai Yutian. Yang Zhaokai did not care whether Sun Luan went to deactivate the formation. He remembered his purpose of coming this time, to save Bai Yutian. After all, he had two middle-stage quasi-emperor supporters, Qin He and Bai Yutian. Neither could be missing. Otherwise, his chances of winning the arena battle 2 days later would be slimmer. Let Bai Yutian go. The corners of Ning Yu's mouth curled up. He said indifferently, "If Bai Yutian wants to go with you, I won't stop him. But I'm afraid he doesn't want to go with you." "Doesn't want to go with me? What do you mean?" Yang Zhaokai vaguely felt that something was wrong. How could Bai Yutian not want to leave with him? He only had 2 rank for quasi-emperors on his side. He treated Bai Yutian very well and gave him all the resources first, even more so than Qin He. Under such circumstances, was Bai Yutian really not willing to go with him? Sha, sha, sha. Bai Yutian walked out from behind Ningyu. 18th Prince, I thank you for everything you've done for me. But to each his own. A fine bird chooses a tree to nest in. I hope you won't make things difficult for me. Bai Yutian stood beside Ningyu and said calmly, "You should go back first and prepare for the competition 2 days later. Don't fail miserably in the competition." Yang Zhaokai's mouth opened slightly. He did not expect Bai Yutian to say such a thing to him. Bastard! Yang Zhaokai stomped his right foot on the ground and said fiercely, "Bai Yutian, I've treated you well. How dare you betray me?" Chapter 25:37. You! Hearing Bai Yutian's words, Yang Zhaokai was so angry that he stuttered. Actually, on the way here, Yang Zhaokai had thought of many possibilities. For example, Bai Yutian had been killed by Ningyu and imprisoned by Ningyu, but he hadn't expected this result. Bai Yutian hadn't been killed by Ningyu, and he hadn't been imprisoned by Ningyu. Instead, he had surrendered to Ningyu. He had never expected this to happen. Looking at Bai Yutian coldly, Yang Zhaokai said in a deep voice, "I have no problem with you surrendering to others. But since you surrendered to Ningyu, I have to teach you a lesson." As he spoke, Yang Zhaokai took out a golden crystal ball from his bosom. Shaking the crystal ball, Yang Zhaokai said, "You have 2 choices now. First, kill Ningyu as a proof of allegiance and pledge your allegiance to me. Second, I'll crush the crystal ball and shatter your internal organs. Don't go overboard." Bai Yutian's face turned ugly. In order to prevent anyone from disobeying Bai Yutian, the high-level quasi-emperor from Night Spirit Palace had left a wisp of soul power in his and Qin He's bodies. As long as Yang Zhaokai crushed the crystal ball, the soul power in his body would explode and destroy his internal organs. His internal organs were shattered. Even if he could survive, his fate would be very miserable. So when Yang Zhaokai took out the crystal ball, Bai Yutian panicked. Although he was panicking, Bai Yutian didn't show it. While dealing with Yang Zhaokai, he contacted Ningyu and asked for help. "Help me snatch the crystal ball. Otherwise, Yang Zhaokai will use the crystal ball to make me hesitate." "No problem." Ningyu was happy to help. Since Bai Yutian was so afraid of the crystal ball, it meant that the crystal ball was Bai Yutian's weakness. However, Ningyu didn't completely trust Bai Yutian. He started to contact the soul power in Bai Yutian's body and secretly investigate. Looks like Bai Yutian didn't lie to me. When Ningyu discovered a hidden strand of soul force in Bai Yutian's body, his expression turned solemn. He knew that Bai Yutian wasn't lying to him. The reason for that was because there was a strand of soul power hidden within Bai Yutian's body. Although his soul force was hidden quite deeply, it was still discovered by him. Ha ha ha! Yang Zhaokai threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Then he said coldly, "What do you mean by leaving a way out when doing things? You've already betrayed me, so it's only natural that I kill you." Immediately after, Yang Zhaokai exerted some strength in his palm. Ka. The golden crystal ball let out a cracking sound, as if it was about to shatter. Xiao! At this moment, a shadow suddenly appeared out of thin air and rushed towards the golden crystal ball in Yang Zhaokai's hand. Qin He! Yang Zhaokai seemed to have expected this. He shouted in a low voice and said coldly, "Do it!" "All right." The energy in Qin He's body converged on his fist, and he punched out with a backhand. Bang! The two fists collided. A crisp sound rang out. Qin He and the figure that appeared out of thin air retreated several steps at the same time. In this blow, both sides were evenly matched. Ao Xing, the martial artist fighting with Qin, he was not Ning Lu, but Ao Xing. Xiao! Ao Xing attracted Qin He's attention, while Ning Lu rushed out of thin air again. While Yang Zhaokai was not paying attention, he suddenly snatched away the golden crystal ball in his hand. My crystal ball! Seeing the crystal ball in his hand being snatched away, Yang Zhaokai's expression changed drastically. With the crystal ball, he could control Bai Yutian and was not afraid that Bai Yutian would seek refuge with Ningyu and Yang Yeming. But now, with the crystal ball snatched away, Bai Yutian would definitely seek refuge with Ningyu and Yang Yeming. It was not scary to lose a rank for Quasi-Emperor. What was scary was that the enemy had one more rank for Quasi-Emperor. Yang Zhaokai's expression was so cold that he wanted to kill someone. What the hell is this? Here. Ning Lu casually threw the crystal ball to Ningyu and then entered the void again, disappearing. His strength. Qin He's gaze stared fixedly at the place where Ning Lu disappeared. What in the world was going on? Just over a day's time had passed. Why did Ningyu, Ning Lu, and Ao Xing, these three people's strength, improve so much? Qin He's entire person became somewhat unwell. Over a day's time, their strength improved by a major level. If it were before, he would not believe it, even if he was beaten to death. But now, the truth was placed in front of him. He had no choice but to believe it. Go. Losing the crystal ball, Yang Zhaokai knew that he had lost today's confrontation. Hence, he suddenly turned around, wanting to leave. But how could Ningyu let Yang Zhaokai leave just like this? He took a step out, blocking in front of Yang Zhaokai, and said, "Since you're here, don't be in such a hurry to leave. If I don't leave, don't tell me I'm staying to celebrate the New Year?" Yang Zhaokai said coldly, "Hoo, it's not to the extent of staying to celebrate the New Year. What I mean is, you can leave some things behind," Ningyu said with a faint smile. Yang Zhaokai suddenly came to the fifth prince's residence and displayed his might for a period of time. If he was allowed to leave just like this, where would Yang Yeming's prestige be in the future? Yang Yeming had just taken back the fifth prince's residence. At this time, it was time to follow up on his victory and force Yang Zhaokai to lower his head. If he missed this opportunity, there would not be such a shop anymore. Leave what behind? Yang Zhaokai was also very sensible. He knew that with Ningyu around, he had to leave something behind today. Otherwise, Ningyu would not let him leave. And 10 emperor rank medicinal pills it is. Ningyu thought about it and said, on Yang Zhaokai's body, Ningyu sensed a strong medicinal fragrance. A medicinal fragrance meant that the medicinal pills were emperor rank. Ningyu refined 100 drops of emperor's spiritual liquid, and his cultivation advanced to peak rank 2 quasi-emperor. If he wanted to refine the emperor's spiritual liquid to improve his cultivation, it would probably take a very long time. And the contest for the position of crown prince would begin in 2 days. You could not wait that long. If he had an emperor rank medicinal pill now, Ningyu was confident that he could break through to rank 3 quasi-emperor within 2 days. Don't even think about it. Yang Zhaokai's pupils constricted, and he said angrily, "Kill me. Even if you kill me, I will not give you 10 emperor rank medicinal pills." Kill you? Haha. Why would I do that kind of thing? Ningyu smiled again, then patted Bai Youtian's shoulder and said, I found the crystal ball for you. Shouldn't you show off? This, Bai Youtian hesitated, because he knew what Ningyu meant. It was not to the extent of killing Yang Zhaokai, but it was necessary to teach Yang Zhaokai a lesson and force Yang Zhaokai to hand over the emperor rank medicinal pills. Why, is there a problem? Ningyu was puzzled. No problem. Bai Youtian hurriedly said. How could Bai Youtian dare to say there was a problem at this time? Even if there was a problem, there was no problem. Sha! He moved. Bai Youtian walked towards Yang Zhaokai step by step. Bai Youtian walked very slowly, and he took a minute to cover the distance of a dozen steps. A minute later, you're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.